Okay, welcome everyone, welcome. So in today's stream, we're going to be having a look at Hearts of Iron 4. And if you haven't played this game before, it is an exceptionally complicated and complex game. And so I'd like to help you understand how to play it so that you can play it yourself. I have enjoyed playing this game quite a lot personally. I think there's a lot of variety, a lot of replayability in this game to play it in many different ways. Especially then, if you add on mods on top of that. But I'm not going to be playing with any mods today, just the absolute base game. I do have some DLC, not all of the DLC. And I have to give a bit of a disclaimer. This game is so huge, so ridiculously complex that actually even in this stream, which will be about 2 hours, I won't be able to cover everything. So I'm not going to cover anything like naval warfare or air warfare. I'm just going to cover the basics and ground warfare. And so if you've never played the game before, all we have to do first is we go to single player, we click on new game, and then we can choose whether we want to start either in 1936 or 1939. For this one, I'm going to start in 1936, so let's select that. And then on this screen, we get all the nations or the major nations that we have available to us that we can select to play as. But we're not limited to just playing as these nations that we have here. We have, of course, the major players in World War II. And then from the DLC that I have, we have some other major nations that we can play as well, such as China, Spain, Portugal, Communist China, Poland. Or if we don't want to play as any of those countries, we can select other countries here. This takes us to the world map here. We can actually just browse around the entire world. We can zoom in and out for to see more or less. We can actually click on any country, which will give us some more information about that country. So we have Brazil, Peru. We can see things like the government that the country has in 1936. By mousing over the different colors, it will tell us what they mean. So in this case, for Peru, brown is fascist, which has a popularity of 51%, whereas blue is democratic with a popularity of 49%. So you can click and you can play as any of these countries in the world that you would like to play as, and that's what really I mean when I say the game has a lot of replayability. Once you've finished playing with the major powers, you can then start to play as some of the smaller countries if you like. You can play as Tibet, you could play as Brazil, you could play as South Africa, Ethiopia even, although that's not so recommended as they start at war with Italy. And then in the bottom right corner here we have, actually I wonder if my camera is covering that. Let's check. Yeah, let's move the camera so you can see that. So in the bottom right corner here, we get a small box that allows us to change the difficulty. If we mouse over the different names, so recruit or civilian, then we get this small pop-up that just tells us what the benefits are or what the drawbacks are at higher difficulties of playing at this difficulty. And I'm just going to play on regular difficulty for this game. And then we have two extra check boxes here. Iron Man mode, which allows you to only have one save, and once you overwrite that save, there's no way to go back if something goes wrong. You are stuck with the decisions that you made. And so Iron Man mode generally just makes the game a bit harder. Any mistakes you make are permanent. No way really to fix them other than what you can then continue to do in the game. There's no way to reload. And then the other option we have is historical AI focuses. And essentially what that does is it just tries to make the game more like how World War II actually played out. It tries to force nations to follow their national focuses that will push the country in the general path that it took in World War II. If we mouse over it, it does tell us that. It says AI countries will, where applicable, pick national focuses in a historical order. And so you select this if you want the game kind of to play out as World War II historically played out. It doesn't fix everything to be always perfectly the same every time, but generally it works like that. So I am going to leave historical focuses on, and for the sake of beginner players and explaining the game in a easy to understand way without having too many things going on, I'm going to play as a minor nation. There are a few reasons for that. The minor nations have less things happening immediately. So you can spend more time focusing on the smaller aspects of the game without having such a huge army, without worrying about different countries attacking you or very strong countries attacking you. And so it generally tends to be a bit more of a relaxed experience. And I think that's kind of perfect for learning the game. So I'm going to play as Iran in this tutorial. So I just click on Iran here, and we can see the information here. It's a non-aligned ideology. The government is authoritarian. The next election is never. And the ruling party is the Pahlavi dynasty. If we mouse over this, we see they are a non-aligned ideology. It pretty much just says the same things we can see here. So let's just press start and begin. And so once the game begins, it looks like this. At least if you begin the game as Iran in 1936, the game looks like this. And so I'm just going to go over, some of the things we can see in the user interface here so that it's not all alien to you. And I would say probably the first thing that's worth explaining are the pop-ups that we get in the top middle of the screen here. I'm just going to adjust my camera back down to this position first. Okay. So the first one here is, it says research slot available. If we mouse over this small square and we wait, it says you have 2 research slots available, and we can interact with these pop-ups in 2 ways. We can left click to interact with it, or we can right click to make it go away. So if I left click on this research slot here, this brings up this research screen here that says selected technology to research. If we click on one of these boxes, that then takes us to the research screen. So we have a lot of different tabs here for all the different kinds of research that you can engage in. The first one is for infantry, which has infantry weapons and some improvements for infantry in combat. We have mobile infantry, which allows you to research trucks and then half-tracks, and even things like armored cars. And then you also have the special forces like Marines, paratroopers, mountain infantry, and there's some upgrades for those. We can click on any of these to get more information. And even just clicking on this one research here, Marines, I think we are met with quite a lot of information that if you're a new player, you don't really know what to do with. Now it says manpower 1000, but what exactly does that mean? The recovery rate is 0.40. What does that mean? When you're a new player, these things don't make a super amount of sense to you. Now, there is a great resource available to you if you are the kind of person that likes to read and learn that way. Hello, QQ Taser. Nice to see you again. Welcome back. There's a great resource available to you if you do want to read. If I just go away from the research screen here, if I press escape, we have the Hearts of Iron wiki button here. If we click on this, it takes you to the Hearts of Iron wiki page. And this page has a abundance of great information for you to read about all the little differences between all the different mechanics and things like that. So you have a beginner's guide, you have the mechanics, the countries, user interface. So a lot of the things that I'm going to explain today are also available on this wiki page. And if you enjoy reading and learning that way, I definitely recommend having a look at this page. But of course, some people don't like to learn that way, and so this is why the stream is on right now. So let me just close this and we'll go back to the research. Now, in basic terms, for absolute beginners, we can just simplify the research down into some key aspects that we need, and then the other things that are optional. And so we can have a quick browse through the different tabs here. We have already explained infantry, We have some support companies for your troops, an armor page for researching armor, artillery. This also has anti-air and anti-tank. We have land doctrine, of which you can choose one of these trees to follow. So you can't have more than one. You can choose superior firepower or grand battle plan or mass assault or mobile warfare, and not two or three of them, only one. And you can mouse over these just like every other research, and you can have some, information about what it does. And so going through these, you can decide, are these the kind of bonuses that I want for my troops, or do I want some different kinds of bonuses? So I'd recommend, just mousing over, looking at what they do, what kind of bonuses they will provide to your troops, and then you can decide for yourself whether this is something overall that you want that will fit your style of play or not. There's a naval tab for ships, and then of course a naval doctrine, just like the land doctrine. You can choose one. Air and air doctrine, the same thing, you can choose one. And then at the right side we have two very important trees which are called engineering and industry. Now generally these are, I said, two of the most important trees, and especially at the start of the game, and especially if you're playing a minor nation. Now another one of the benefits of playing a minor nation is that they do not have a specialized national focus tree, which is here. They all have the same one. So if you play as Iran, if you play as Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Oman or Tibet, you will get the same national focus tree, which looks like this. And so in that way, it reduces the variables for you, so that not too many things are different, because some of the national focus trees for the major countries, for Italy, for the USSR, for Germany, can be exceptionally large and quite complex. And when you see how large they are and how complex they are, you can feel a little bit daunted, a little bit demotivated, thinking about all these things that you're going to have to read and try and understand and choose which one will be best, and you'll be worried that you'll be making wrong decisions there. So this is why I recommend a minor nation for a beginner. It tends to simplify the learning process. But I wasn't finished with research, so let's click on the research button here and go back. Now at the very start of the game, some of the most important things that you want to begin researching first before anything else are the increased research speed that you can get from electronic engineering, which begins here with electronic mechanical engineering. If we just click on this and we press research, that will begin, and it says it will be finished after 80 days. Now once this one finishes, it will then unlock these other ones which are grayed out. The right side tree here also increasing research speed. Now 3% doesn't seem like so much, but once you add it on with 4% and 5%, you then start to reach a certain extra amount of research speed, which as you progress through the years will definitely accumulate into something significant. And being behind other nations in terms of technology generally is just going to go badly for you, and that's why research speed is so important. So my recommendation is that research speed is one of the most important technologies to research, and should always be taken if you can take it. Now, the second most important, or equally important, would be the industry tree. An industry affects mostly two different things. It affects how fast you can construct things within your nation, and it also affects how much your factories can produce. And you use your factories to produce things like guns for your infantry, artillery guns, tanks. You use your naval dockyards to produce ships and things like that. And so this tree here, the industry tree, affects exactly that. If we mouse over it, we see we will get things like an increased amount of maximum factories in a state. Factory output is increased. Factory bomb vulnerability is decreased. So this is basically just increasing the effectiveness of your factories, and by doing so, that will mean your factories can produce more equipment faster, which means you are then able to supply your army better. Now the one on the left is something called production efficiency cap, and I mean, it's not so easy to understand unless we actually go and have a look at the production screen, okay, which is this one here. So if we click on production. Now, because we are a minor nation, we have exactly one military factory, which makes it very easy to decide what to do with it. We're just going to make some infantry equipment, some rifles. And fortunately, it's already doing that. We don't need to change anything. But in terms of relation to production efficiency cap, that is this bar here. If we mouse over it, it says production efficiency is at 50%, and the production efficiency cap is also 50%. So it's already at its maximum. If we increase the maximum by 10%, then production efficiency will still be 50% now, but the maximum will be 60, and it will slowly increase over time up to that 60%. And if you don't increase it, it can never increase. It will always be at 50%. So there is more than one research technology available for increasing your production efficiency cap. And so you can increase it up to 60, 70, 80%. And essentially what that affects is how many of this equipment can it produce per day. It's already at maximum efficiency, which is 4.69 infantry equipment per day. If it increases up to 60%, it will then become either 5 or 6 infantry equipment per day, and so on and so forth. It affects anything that your factories are producing, and this production efficiency cap affects every single thing that your factories produce. Now, the other thing that is affecting the amount of equipment that can be produced per day is the resource it requires and whether you have that resource or not. So mousing over the bar of steel here, which has a 0 next to it because I have 0 steel, tells us that this line is using 0 units of steel because I have 0, but I need 2 more if I want to have full efficiency. So if I can somehow gain access to the resource of steel, then that will also increase the efficiency of this line, and so more infantry equipment will be produced per day. The small boxes here represent how many factories are currently producing this equipment in this line here. If we have more factories, we can add or tell more factories to continue producing by just clicking on either 2 or 3 extra factories, depending on how many you have, how many you want. And we see mousing over it, it does change. It tells us what the change will be. So if we have one factory, it's 4.69. If we mouse over to here, for 2 factories, it'll be 8.87, 3, 12.52. And we can even still click at the moment. So if I left click here, it can't add any more factories to this, but as soon as any other military factories become available, they will be added to this line automatically without me having to do anything. So this is something, I can prepare in advance. And the final thing we see here is a number next to the stockpile icon, and that just tells us what is being stockpiled or how much has been stockpiled so far. So it's helpful to know whether you actually have equipment in reserve or not for your wars. If you have no equipment, then your soldiers can't fight very well, and if your soldiers have no equipment, they will not be able to fight at all. So this is a key mechanic of war and supplying your soldiers. And that is why the production and the industry research is so important. So that would be the production line here for the efficiency cap. We have the industry for increasing how much your factories can produce, which is connected very strongly to that as well. And then we have the construction tree here, which is also equally important as these other 2 trees. And this just increases your construction speed, essentially. That's what it says, plus 10%. And so to see what that means, then we can go to the construction tab. So this is about production. We can go look at the production tab. This one is about construction. We go look at the construction tab. So on this page, we see now some things such as consumer goods, traded goods, and there are a lot of buttons here that you might not know what they do. And really the only ones we really need to focus on, at least for this tutorial, are the civilian factories, military factories, and infrastructure. Now, what infrastructure does, it increases how fast you can build within a certain state. And I can demonstrate that to you by clicking on infrastructure here. And this brings up a new overlay over the country. And we see each state has its own representation or its own box, okay? So this one says 3 out of 10 and then 2 out of 2. So the top number represents the level of infrastructure. The maximum is 10 at the moment. For example, in Tehran, it is 4. And the second numbers here represent how many factories have been built in this state and what the maximum amount of factories that can be built are. So I have 3 factories in Tehran and I can have a maximum of 4. The infrastructure level is 4. If I increase the infrastructure level in Tehran, that will also increase the speed at which I can build anything else within that state. So if I want to build a lot of factories in Tehran, then it would suit me to build up the infrastructure first. And there is a nice bonus that you can get from having maximum infrastructure. Once you have 10 out of 10 infrastructure in a state, you will get a special option to integrate the infrastructure or the industry, and that will give you 1 extra factory slot. So instead of being 3 out of 4, it would then be 3 out of 5. I would be able to build 1 extra factory in this state. And for some nations that don't start with a lot of factory slots, or they have the factory slots spread out amongst low infrastructure states, being able to have some extra factory slots where you can build more factories in states where you have already built up your infrastructure can be quite valuable. So we have to do something with the construction right from the start of the game. We have to start constructing things because civilian factories and military factories are 2 of the most important buildings in the games. You use your military factories on your production screen to produce equipment. You can produce infantry equipment. At the moment, I also have the option to produce some artillery if I want, but I only have 1 factory, and so infantry equipment it has to be, because you can't do anything without that. But let's go back to the construction screen. I can click it here. It says free civilian factories. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a civilian factory in Tehran here. All I have to do is click on civilian factory, click on Tehran, and this has now been queued. If we mouse over these slightly moving arrows here, it says I have 3 factories that I can use to build it out of a maximum of 15. So most minor nations don't start with many factories. We can see exactly how many factories we have over here. We have 1 military factory, no naval dockyards, and 4 civilian factories. So you might be wondering, if I have 4 civilian factories, then why are only 3 being used to build? That's because of a mechanic called consumer goods. And so this is connected to something called your economic policy. Depending on your economic policy, that will determine how many, as a percentage, of your factories will be taken away from you and you can't use. The consumer goods don't provide anything to you, but they do take away factories from you. And if we want to change our economic policy, then this is something we can look at on the decision screen, the government screen here, by clicking our nation flag. So by clicking our nation's flag, we get this laws and government screen, research and production, and military staff. And all of the decisions here, or all of the options here, we can click on any of these to get some choices we can make. So we have industrial concern, we have material designers, we have the trade laws, we have the conscription laws, we have the economy laws. But if we want to change these, we need this resource that is in red because we don't have enough, and this is the political power resource, which we can see up here in the top left corner. Now it says here at the moment that it's going up by 2.06 per day, and because of stability that is increased by 3%. Stability is the number next to it. If we mouse over it, it's currently 65%, and this gives us some benefits. As we see, 3% extra political power gain. It reduces consumer goods factories by 1.5%. It increases factory output and things like that. So having high stability is quite important in terms of the bonuses that you get from it. And having low stability then will change these numbers to become negative, and we don't really want that to happen. So we're going to wait until political power goes up, and then we'll be able to change this economy law from civilian economy to either early mobilization or partial mobilization. And the difference between the two is that partial mobilization is better than early mobilization. If we have a look at the actual numbers, so from civilian economy, which has 35% of your factories will be used for consumer goods, early mobilization only uses 30%, and partial mobilization only uses 25%. War economy 20 and total mobilization only has 10% of your factories used for consumer goods. Now, these economy laws are restricted behind your nation's war support. We can see that here. If we have a look, it says there's a big X that says more than 50% war support. The X means that we don't have more than 50% war support. I don't know what to ask because you always explain it as soon as I start wondering. Okay, I mean, that's good, I guess. I'm glad that it's helping you to understand. If you see anything on the screen that you're wondering what it is or how it might work with anything else, feel free to ask. So the war economy here we cannot get because we do not have more than 50% war support, and we can see our current war support up here in the top left next to the stability. And so it is 50%, but this requires it to be more than 50%, so we're just not quite there. And it also says that one of the following must be true. Either the current ruling party must be fascist or communist, or if neither of the above is true, we must be at war, and any enemy country must have more than 40% of our total number of factories. So that these are the requirements, and if these requirements are met, we can change to the war economy as long as we have 150 political points to spend. So I can change to partial mobilization because we do have more than 25% war support. And doing so will change from 35% consumer goods factories to only 25%. But it also removes this malus that we see at the very bottom, which says civilian factory construction speed minus 30%. And so we saw that we are at the moment constructing civilian factories in Tehran. But because we have this economy law that has minus 30%, it's going 30% slower than it could be going. But once we change the economy law to partial mobilization, that malus will be removed, at least from partial mobilization. Early mobilization just takes it down to minus 10%, and that's why partial mobilization is better than early. So that's something that I want to fix as soon as possible. So let's just close that for now, and let's finish the research here. So the first one I'm going to take is this extra 10% construction speed, and that's done now. And so the next button we have here, it says no national focus set. If we click on this, this takes us to the focus tree that I showed briefly before. We can also access it just by clicking on the nation flag and then clicking select national focus here. This gives us a few different trees, and as I said earlier, one of the benefits of playing a minor nation is that they all have this same national focus tree. So it will always be the same, you will always have the same things here, and so you can always, have some understanding of what they will do and which ones you will want to choose in a kind of simpler way. Let me just take a drink. Now, because, as I said earlier, in terms of research, that research speed and industry is incredibly important, then again, also the industry tree here is also incredibly important at the start of the game. And the reason for that is that we can see here that each of these focuses will give a free factory. This one gives one, this one gives one. This is infrastructure. This one gives two free civilian factories, and each one of these armament efforts will give a free military factory. Now, that's valuable because if we have a look at our construction tab here, and we mouse over this small black bar here, it will tell us that we will finish building this new factory on the 6th of October 1937. The current date, if we check in the top right corner, is the 1st of January 1936. So it's going to take almost 2 years to finish building one civilian factory because we only have 3 civilian factories to build it with. Whereas if we take this national focus, this construction effort focus, it only takes 70 days to finish, and we get a free factory out of that, which is at least 10 times faster. And then once we finish that one, we can get another one, we can get another one here, and that's a total of 4 free factories within 70, 140, 210 days, compared to having to wait almost 2 years for our measly 3 civilian factories to finish just building one. And so that's why this industrial effort tree is so important when you're playing as a minor nation. And generally this will be the first tree I take, with a small caveat for playing Iran. The way I like to play Iran is I like to change the government type away from the non-aligned party, and I'd like to change to the fascist party. I like to change Iran into a fascist country. And this is also, I think, one of the nice things about Hearts of Iron is that you can even change, the kind of government in your country, and it will have various effects on different things. And the easiest way to change the country into fascist is a two-part step. The first would be to buy a political advisor, the fascist demagogue. This will increase fascism support in the country over time. And then the other extra thing we can do is we can take this nationalism focus here, which will do the same thing, except in a more temporary manner. It's only for 720 days, but doing so does add, it doubles the rate. And this allows us to change the government faster. And there are some benefits to having a fascist government, one of which is that you can take this focus tree here. Hello, mate. Hi, Bounty Slayer. Nice to see you, man. If you got any questions about the game, feel free to ask. And some of the benefits of this generic minor nation focus tree are specifically militarism and military youth. If we have a look here, this says that increase its recruitable population by 5%. 5% may seem small, but it is not. It is really, really big. It also allows us to send volunteer forces if we want. But then further, the military youth national focus. Now, this focus actually changes after you change your government to the fascist government type. And if you take this focus after you've changed your government type to fascist, this focus will also increase the popularity of fascism by an extra 20%, which is also pretty huge in terms of how fast you can change your government support. 20% all at once is really, really good. And it also further increases your recruitable population by 2%. So 2% and 5%, an extra 5% recruitable population is actually in this game really, really big. And our recruitable population affects our manpower, which is this resource we see here. So this tells us that we have 168,000 manpower available at the moment, and this will go up over time. And we can also affect how many people can be recruited or available in our manpower, both with these two focuses, but also with the conscription law here. So at the moment we are on volunteer only, which allows us a recruitable population of 1.5%. Remember that those two focuses will increase this by 7%, okay, which is a huge increase compared to 1.5%. If we go down to limited conscription, it goes up to 2.5%, but it requires some extra war support. Extensive conscription allows you a recruitable population of 5%. But we see now that this is actually quite an expensive law to change. It requires 300 political points, and it will change from 1.5% to 5%. That's an increase of 3.5%, and that's only half of the increase that those two national focuses would provide if we took them. So I hope that shows you just how valuable these two national focuses specifically are in terms of getting extra manpower. So I want to change my government as soon as possible, even though I really want some more factories. Changing my government as soon as possible does provide me with some extra benefits, such as I can actually declare war on anybody I like, which the non-aligned and the democratic countries cannot do so easily. And by changing to fascist, by being allowed to Battle Brothers tutorial when I don't know anything about Battle Brothers. You're the guy that has to give that tutorial, Yog. You teach us how to play that, okay? You do the game education sponsored stream for Battle Brothers, because I don't know anything about it. So what was that? You distracted me now. What was I saying? All right, so if we change to a fascist country, we can then also declare war on other countries next to us. And what I like to do is when I play as Iran, I like to change the government as soon as I can, declare war on Iraq, and then just take Iraq and start expanding my borders. Once you take other countries, you then also gain access to some of their factories, which will also then again increase your industry and your production capabilities. Because if we just stay as our small minor nation within these borders that we have now, our ability to impact the game is fairly limited. But if we take the opportunity to expand when we can, to gain extra territory, to gain access to extra factories from other countries, then we can actually start to become more than just a tiny, negligible minor power. So the caveat is that although this is the most important, occasionally I will need to switch to this political tree here to get some different things. And the first national focus that we start with is political effort. Mission accomplished. Yeah, do it. I mean, I'd love to learn how to play. I do like watching you play Battle Brothers, but it's all kind of Greek to me, so to speak. So political effort to begin with, that's been said. The next thing we can look at is this says no divisions in basic training. Now you might also notice that slightly below it is a little video button. If we click this, you get a short video tutorial that will tell you some very basic information about how to recruit. Now, it's just showing you what to do in terms of the buttons to click. It doesn't really explain to you what that means or why you want to do it like that. So that's what I'm going to do for you. So let's just close this. So we have two options at the moment. We can recruit either, or not recruit, we can train an infantry brigade or a cavalry brigade. Now, a lot of the time, cavalry becomes obsolete very quickly, so we want to stick with infantry. And we have two options. We can train or we can edit. If we click on edit, this will tell us some extra information about our infantry division, all the different combat stats and base stats, the equipment cost. We can see how much manpower is required for one division, which is 6,000. That's connected to our manpower stat here. The training time, how long it takes to train, if it requires any fuel or if it uses any fuel, which it doesn't because it's just infantry, and then also how much infantry equipment it requires, which of course is connected to production, but is also connected to our logistics tab here. Now our logistics tab, if we click on either of these, will tell us exactly how much of this specific equipment we have stored, how much is being produced per week. And so if you are not producing any infantry equipment, you actually will not be able to recruit any infantry divisions. Even if I press train here and I set the location, let's set the location as Tehran. And now it will begin training the division, which is this small bar here with the star, and the other bar here with the crate is about the equipment. Now I do have 6,000 manpower available. However, the infantry equipment is only 5 out of 600. And so that's why the production is so important. And if you don't produce infantry equipment, if you don't have infantry equipment, then you can't finish this this infantry brigade. You can't deploy them. They will train, but they won't have the equipment so that they will actually be available to you on the map. So this is why industry is such an important part of Hearts of Iron 4. But I think also the equipment changes sometimes, the logistics change. Let's just up the speed here, and now we can click. So we can actually see now that the difference is minus 1,100 units of infantry equipment. The game, if it is paused right from the start and you don't actually engage with the time, you don't always get accurate statistics here. So we are at a deficit of about 1,000 infantry equipment, and that's a bit of a problem. We want to change that. And the other thing we can see here is the balance. This tells us, are we in general producing enough and gaining more equipment, or are we losing equipment? We are slowly over time not having enough equipment, and too much is being used compared to how much is being produced. And there we go. Now that it has caught up with the industry and how much is being produced, it now says that we have a surplus of 4.6 units of infantry equipment per day. And so I'm just going to up the speed a little bit now, as there are, I don't want to just sit and wait after I've explained everything for things to happen. So I'm going to up the speed to 5 speed as I continue to explain some things. And then as the things come up that we can change, that we can affect, I can pause and then, show and explain and then resume again. So the next button is Unassigned Divisions. And if we click this, it will show us one of the divisions that is not assigned. If we click it again, it will show another one. Click it again, it will show the other one. If we just drag a box over these 3 units here, if we zoom in, we can see this is infantry. We can see the man. We zoom in here, we can see the man as well. This is cavalry, and we can see a man on a horse. Pretty simple, right? Now what we will need to do here is we need to put them into a kind of company under the command of a general. And to do that, once we've selected them, we just right click on this green cross here. And this will put them into a company together. And the next thing that we have to do after that, okay, let's pause. So this is something that happens as you are playing. You get this world news pop-up, and this tells you generally at the correct times the historical events that happen around the world. And these are real events that really affect the nations involved. And it gives you this nice kind of realistic feel as you play the game. This is worrying apparently for us, so we don't actually have any effect with this. We just read it, we can look at the historical picture, and we can press on this here. The national focus has completed political effort. And what that one did was it gave us 120 extra political power, which we can now use to spend to get this fascist demagogue that is going to help in changing the popularity of fascism, so that we can then change the government. And we have to wait until we have at least 50% support for fascism. So we take this one first, we go down to 48 political power, then we go back to selecting a different national focus, and now I have a choice. I can choose to get some industry, which is the one I think I'm going to do. Alternatively, I could take collectivist ethos, which we can see here grants daily democracy support minus 0.02, and as there is no support for democracy in Iran, this will do absolutely nothing, and it's a bit of a waste of time, but it does allow access to the nationalism focus, which is very useful along with the ones after it. But I'm going to take industrial effort first, and then I can gain some extra free factories after that. And this one even gives a 100% research bonus for industry, which is, of course, a very important technology tree as well. So we'll take that one, and then we'll resume the 5-speed game. And we can go back to the army here, which has no general assigned to it at the moment. So all we have to do to assign a general is we click on this portrait here. We left click here, and here we see the generals that are available to us. If we don't have any, we can click new commander, but I do have one. I have the General Hassan Arthur, and he has the trait Desert Fox, which gives him some nice bonuses for combat or for the troops that he commands if they are fighting within a desert. We get to see his level or his skill, which is 3, and then also his skill levels in attack, defense, planning speed, and logistics, which reduces supply consumption. So if I click on him now, he's going to be the general of this group. And we see here that this is now 3 out of 24. So there's a maximum of 24 divisions that he can command effectively at one time. And one more thing that we need to do now is we also need to add a field marshal, which is very similar to a general. It adds some benefits to the troops under the command, except a field marshal can also support 5 generals. So this is 1 general. If we get 24 units, we can recruit another general, and we can also connect him to the field marshal. The field marshal will also get some traits with attack and defense. So essentially what this is doing is this is just passively increasing the statistics of all the troops under the command of both the general and the field marshal. Now, Iran doesn't start with any field marshals available, so all we need to do is we can just press new commander, and then we get a new general, Aziz Ansari. If we want him to be a field marshal, we have to promote him, and this costs 30 of the red telephone. The red telephone is here. This is called command power. And it's used for various things, but at the moment we're just using it as a resource we can use to promote a general to a field marshal. So let's press this, and we say, yes, that's okay. He is now a field marshal, and he becomes not grayed out, can be selected as the field marshal, and there we go. This is the basic rule that we need to follow with our military for any nation really. So now that that's done, the research has finished with the research speed here, and we can immediately move on to mechanical computing, which will also increase research speed. And we can go back to zooming through time at the 5-speed maximum. I need to drink because talking endlessly like this is going to do a real number on your throat. Fortunately, I have some great coffee here made by my wife, my wonderful wife. So now we're essentially just waiting for the national focus to finish, for the research to finish. Once that's done, then we move on to the next parts of it. We can check the construction. We see that the one single factory is about 25% done. In production, nothing has changed yet, but we can see here that needed for reinforcement are 580 sets of infantry equipment, because we are trying to train a new unit here and we don't have enough equipment yet to do that. So Italy has annexed Ethiopia. And if we want, we can even browse across the world to have a look at that. Ethiopia has disappeared and is now Italy. The national focus finishes. So we get this research bonus for industry now that we can use. And I'm going to take, I think, a military factory first to start producing more infantry equipment. And once we then get more infantry equipment and we get into a kind of a surplus, we can then start training even more infantry divisions to start building up the army to an acceptable level. Political PowerPoints now. Generally, we want to look at political PowerPoints once it reaches around 100 or 150, because most of the the changes that we can make here in the military staff, in the research and production, in the laws and government require 150 political power points to change. And we can see that here just browsing through. Most of the time it's 150. I did say that the next one I want to change is the economy law. So once this reaches 150, I will do that, and that will increase my construction speed. There we go. Research has finished, and now because we got that, the national focus that gives us that research bonus just once, we can take this industrial research here, which increases the efficiency cap, and this will finish now in only 44 days, which is pretty good. Now we get a tab here that says insufficient resources because we are producing infantry equipment which requires 2 steel, and we do not have 2 steel. Now if you want to get resources that you don't have, you have to trade for them. And what you trade is you give away 1 civilian factory to another nation, and they will give you 8 of a resource. There's the Spanish Civil War. And so we can have a look at the trade tab here. Here we get the different resources. And if I want some steel, I can click on steel here, and then I can choose a country that I want to import steel from. Sometimes you will need convoys to do so, and sometimes not. So I could import steel from France, and I would not need any convoys, any ships to do that. But from the United States, I would need 9 convoys to do that. Generally, I'd say it's better to choose the ones that you don't need convoys for, because once there is the war going on, a lot of the time convoys can get intercepted, and you're not going to get those resources that you wanted. Now, I did say that you trade 1 civilian factory for 8 of a resource. And so if you only need 4 steel, and you trade away a factory and gain 8 steel, you're going to be gaining 4 steel, which you cannot put to use. So most of the time, I just let the production continue until I need at least 6 of a resource, and then I will trade the factory away. Then at least I'm getting a bit better value for what I'm giving up, especially when you only have 7 factories to begin with. Giving 1 of them away is actually quite a lot in terms of your total percentage. So now that the production, sorry, this one, yeah. Did it finish yet? It hasn't finished yet, okay. Let's wait for this to finish in 10 days. And then we'll see the production efficiency cap jump up here. So let's just see that. Okay. And there we go. It now has a higher maximum. Because I added in an extra military factory, that also then factors both of the factories in together. One was at maximum efficiency, but when you add in another one, the next factory does not start at maximum efficiency. It takes some time to build up towards it. So this is also something you kind of have to bear in mind, that when you're producing equipment, you don't want to change your equipment line a lot of the time, or you don't want to change the factories associated with it too much, because it's not instantly efficient. Factories have to be producing something for a long time before they reach that kind of high level of efficiency where they are producing a lot of that equipment every day. So definitely keep that in mind when you're looking at your industry. But now we have to choose a new national focus. So I do have an extra military factory. Let's take a civilian factory next. There's some research available. And now I'm going to choose either of these industry trees. You can only choose one or the other. And all they do here, we can see they increase the amount of factories you can have in a state, but they also increase the factory output, which is related to your production here. So that will increase how much infantry equipment my factories can produce every day, and this number 5.61 will go up because of that as well. So all of these things are connected in that way. So I'm going to take, let's see, this one also increases production efficiency retention and production efficiency base. What that essentially means is that when you put a new factory or an extra military factory to be producing something, it starts at a higher production efficiency than if you didn't have this technology. So usually I do like to take this one, as it allows you some more leeway when you're adding or taking away military factories from different lines. So we'll put that one on now. Okay, the Olympics have just finished in Berlin. And so now we get this pop-up here that says there are some decisions available. And this is your decisions tree here. And you also use your political PowerPoints for all of the decisions here. Now, because I have the fascist demagogue, which increases fascist support, I have this extra set of decisions here called fascism on the rise. And this gives me some options for things like civil war or to more peacefully change the government. And if you're a new player, I wouldn't recommend trying to go for a civil war, as it can be a bit tricky sometimes, and you can quite easily change the government peacefully to fascist anyway, and that generally works out better. But let's have a look at some of the decisions we have here. We have things like improve worker conditions, and it says here that for 180 days, this will cost 5% extra factories for consumer goods, but it will increase stability by 0.5% every week, while also reducing factory output by 10%. Now, stability is actually very useful and very important. If we have a look at it again, we see that having high stability also increases your factory output anyway. And if we do some quick maths, 180 days is going to be about 25 weeks, I think, if my quick maths is okay. So 25 weeks at 0.5%, that's going to be about 12.5% extra stability, which is actually quite significant, but you just have to wait half a year for it to reach that 12.5% extra. So improve worker conditions, if you do have the extra political PowerPoints and your stability is not very high, is a pretty solid choice to choose and to spend your points on. You have other things like promises of peace, which also increase stability, but they increase stability at the cost of war support. And we saw before that we can use war support to change the economic laws. Now, if your war support then goes down, you might start being pressured by your population to reduce your economy law again. So it's not just oh, I have lots of war support, let's spend some of it. It does affect some other things, and you do want to keep that in mind. So a lot of the time, unless my war support is really, really high, or I really, really, really need more stability because it's so low, I tend to avoid promises of peace. And then we have some other options here that allow us to affect the popularity of some different government types. So we could choose to have some anti-fascist raids here, and that would decrease the support for fascism, but we see it does also come with a drawback of reducing stability, although it then does also increase stability for 120 days, over time again as well anyway, which does kind of counteract it. So if you do want to reduce the popularity of a certain government type, you can use these to do that. The same with ban fascism and institute press censorship. They do the same things. Now, I want to be fascist, so I don't want to do any anti-fascist raids. And I want to keep my political PowerPoints for some other things for now, so I'm not going to spend them on that. Looks like the unit that was being trained has been deployed now, which is here. It has a red exclamation mark next to him. Oh no, it doesn't. Here's this one without the red exclamation mark. So we click on the unit, we right click on the general here, and this unit is now added into this group. Now, one of the other things that we can do with our armed forces is we can increase their experience level. At least we can increase it from trained, from level 2 up to level 3. And if we want to do that, we just have to click on the general here, and then we click on this button here, which is to start exercises. And what this will do is this will use up some amount of equipment as they train, but it will also increase their experience level, as we see here, and that's the golden bar. Once it reaches the top, they will then change this image here from trained to the level 3 image, which is regular, and that will increase their combat capabilities. So we have some new research. The mechanical computing has finished. The next one, the computing machine, says it would take 394 days to finish because the technology is 1.19 years ahead of time. So the more ahead of time it is, the bigger the time penalty. So most of the time you want to avoid researching things that have this time penalty because it's not very efficient. If the time penalty is small, if it's only 0.2 years ahead of time, I would say you can go ahead and take it. But for now, remember that we just want to focus on these very important technologies, which are the research speed and the industry. These take priority. So if we can research these, then we will do so. This one says 0.19 years ahead of time. That meets my criteria as being okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one. And onto the national focus now. I did get this extra civilian factory, which is now helping to build the extra factory, which will finish in December of this year, which is significantly different than November of next year. And once that's done, I will then have 6 factories, and I can use my 6 factories to produce more factories, and you get this kind of knock-on effect of having more factories to produce more factories, which can produce more factories. And generally what I try to do is I try to work up to a certain amount of civilian factories that can then help me to build up infrastructure, that can then start producing military factories at a reasonable speed, rather than trying to build military factories when I only have 3 civilian factories to build with. So let's choose the next national focus. And because the fascist support is increasing now, one of the things that we need to know and we need to pay attention about here is that as support for fascism increases, the daily change will actually decrease. So we get the full change at the moment. Oh no, we don't. We can see that the fascist demagogue increases fascism support by 0.1. But when we actually mouse over fascism here, we see at this popularity, effects are scaled to 50%, and so the change is actually only 0.05. So it's been reduced by 50%. And so now if I want to make it change faster, what I'm going to want to do is take this nationalism focus here. And so I have to take the collectivist ethos first, so let's do that. Carry on with the 5 speed. Have a look at the logistics to see how many infantry equipment are being produced. So in a little bit of a deficit at the moment. And when we click on recruit and deploy, we see that it's doing okay. We have enough equipment to train at a reasonable rate. And this number is still going to increase over time because the factories are not yet at maximum efficiency. And even mousing over this, it tells us that the base cap is 50%, but it has been increased by that technology. We researched the basic machine tools. And we can watch the number here, 7.45, 46, 48. We see that over time it starts to produce more equipment per day. So even if it's not really enough right now, we know that it is increasing. And once we even get another military factory, it's going to increase even faster again. Pausing the game now, we have a few pop-ups. We have enough political PowerPoints to change something in the government. And we have an unassigned division, which we can just use this. Left click here, gives us this division. If we right click on the general, he's added into the group here. And he's going to then also exercise with this group. One of the extra benefits of having your army exercising is that you gain this resource called army experience. And you need army experience to modify the templates, which are here. So I have 6 units of infantry within this division, but I don't have to leave it at 6. I can reduce it or increase it as I like, but we have to use experience points as a resource to do so. So if I want to increase the amount of infantry in this division, I can do that, but it costs um, 5 experience points to do so, of which I only have 3 at the moment. But as the divisions continue exercising, this will continue to go up. And then when I do have enough, I can change that to increase the amount of infantry within one single unit. So generally that will just increase the strength of each individual infantry division, as we see here. So for modifying government now, I have the fascist demagogue. I have the new economy law that increases my construction speed. So what I can take now is I can browse through these and have a look. As a minor nation Iran, I'm not going to be making any tanks, and so having a tank designer is not really going to help. Same for the ship designer and the aircraft designer. But other things like material designer, infantry equipment, for example, could be useful, as could an industrial concern, as we are going to be researching a lot of industrial technology, as that is very important, and that will increase the speed. We do that by 15%. Alternatively, we could choose a different political advisor, or not a different one, but an extra one. And this, for example, we could choose the captain of industry. This will further give a construction speed bonus to civilian factories and infrastructure. And as generally I begin the game by trying to build at least a few civilian factories, an extra 10% speed bonus permanently, unless I decide to change him out later, is going to be pretty useful. When you have enough resources for something, will there be a pop-up? Enough resource. Oh, somebody followed. Thank you, Magoji, for the follow. What do you mean, QQ Taser? Like, what resources for what? Could you be a little bit more specific? So the civilian factories have finished being built here in Tehran. Now, I have an option. What I could do is I could choose to increase the infrastructure in Tehran. And if I get the infrastructure in Tehran up to 10, I will then also get a decision I can make with my political PowerPoints to integrate the industry and gain an extra factory slot within this state. And I'd like to show that to you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to increase the infrastructure in Tehran. Alternatively, if you also increase the infrastructure in the states that have a resource. So Khuzestan down here, for example, has 42 oil, and it has an infrastructure level of 5 out of 10. If we increase the infrastructure, so this is +1, we see that also the resource associated with this state also increases. So +2, +6, 8, 11, 14, and so we can increase the amount of oil available to us in this state. And although as this minor nation Iran, we don't really need oil because oil is used for machines, for planes, for ships, for tanks, for trucks and things like that. And we don't really use those. We don't really need the oil, but we can export the oil. And that's not something that we have to actually do. Hey there, I have started playing Hoi and I really needed a tutorial. Well, great, perfect. I hope this helps you to enjoy the game as much as I have. If you have any questions about the things I talk about or the things I do, feel free to ask. So the exporting of your resources here is not something you actively have to do. What will happen is when other nations want oil and you have it available for export, they will trade you one of their civilian factories, and in return they will get 8 oil from you. And that's actually, playing as Iran at least, that's actually a really nice way for which we can get extra civilian factories available to us to increase our industry, to increase the speed at which we can build things. Now, at the very start of the game, like we are now in 1936, there aren't many nations that want or need oil. But once World War II kicks off and all the tanks are rolling and all the planes are flying and all the ships are sailing, then the demand for oil skyrockets and all the nations are gonna want to be your best friend for all the oil that you have. Alternatively, they might just want to invade you and take it. Not that anything like that happens in real life, of course. What am I drinking? I am drinking a wonderful coffee made by my wonderful wife who makes this coffee every morning for me. I have no idea how I got so lucky to have such a great coffee making wife, but that's how the dice was rolled. I'm very fortunate in that respect. Now, what was I talking about here? The resources, the construction. Okay, so I'm going for the infrastructure to display the decision for the integration, right? And I want to take the national focus that will increase the popularity of fascism as well. So I'm waiting for this one to finish. Finished, and now we can take the nationalism focus, and then that will increase the speed at which fascism becomes popular, which is what we need then to be able to freely declare war on anyone available. Nice, yes, it is nice, and she is very nice. So how's the research doing? This one's almost finished. So we can prepare in advance. We can click on it before it's finished and mouse over what we would like to research first. And of course, if you just tuned in, if you weren't here before, what I said earlier is that the industry tree, at least in the way that we are playing today, is incredibly important. And for me, at least at the beginning of the game, in the first couple of years, takes priority over everything else because it will have that knock-on effect of allowing you to build faster, which then allows you to build faster again, which allows you to produce more, and so on and so forth. And you can't win wars without any guns, and you have to make those guns. So I'm going to take dispersed industry next. What I'll do is I'll check the research on this side in the electronic engineering. This says I can research it, but it's a little bit ahead of time. Okay, so I just need to wait, but it's always worth checking to see if you can get that extra research speed. So let's take the dispersed industry here, and let's zoom ahead at 5 speed again. Army experience is almost at 5, so we can almost increase that. Let's have a look at production. Still in a little bit of a deficit in production of infantry equipment, but it's getting there. It's now up to 9 infantry equipment per day. The efficiency is slowly increasing. And after this focus is finished, then I'm going to take the extra armament focus here for that extra military factory. I've heard some people have a focus tree and some people don't. Is that true? No, every nation has a focus tree, but the reason I'm playing a minor nation today, the reason I am playing Iran, is because these minor nations all get this same focus tree. So this is not the focus tree that is specific to Iran. If you played as Iraq, you would have the same focus tree. If you played as Tibet, you would have the same focus tree. This is what's called the generic minor nation focus tree. And the reason I like to use this for teaching people about the game is because it's much simpler than the major nations. If you have a look at the focus tree for Germany or for the UK, it's huge and it's branching out in all directions, and in my opinion that can be a little bit daunting and a little bit hard to get to grips with and to come to terms with. Whereas this minor nation simplified tree is both powerful in some respects, in respects to things like the recruitable population bonus here, and the nice factories, the extra research slot, but it's also simple and easier to understand. And so that's why I think it's a good choice for beginners to learn the game. So 100 points now. Remember, we look at the political power whenever we get to around 100, 150. That's when we're going to be looking at spending our political power points. So I don't need to worry about it just now. We can just sit and wait a little bit. Now we got the nationalism focus, and we can see here nationalism, the change is now 0.1 per day instead of 0.05. Let's now select the armament effort and get that extra military factory to stop this deficit. How do you win the game, and how long does a game usually take? Now, really, there isn't, I would say, really a way to win the game because it's very kind of like a sandbox game. You could set the objective for yourself to take over the world, but that would take a very, very long time. There'd be a lot of countries to take over and so on and so forth. Personally, for myself, I enjoy playing the game just even in the smaller ways, like just playing as Iran and then taking over Iraq and maybe Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan, maybe then declaring war on the British Raj and joining the Axis faction. Each time you play, you can go in many different paths. I'm taking Iran down the fascist path. But alternatively, I could restart and choose communism instead. I could get into a faction with the USSR. I could instead decide to be democratic and join the Allies. So even just playing one nation, there are many different ways that you could play it. And even if you do just play the same way, you play as fascist Iran, you can make different decisions. Instead of attacking Iraq first, you could attack Afghanistan. You could decide that you want to try and take over Turkey by utilizing this bottleneck here and letting Turkey throw its human wave assault at you across the mountains here, which is going to significantly drain their manpower and resources. A lot of different ways to play. Time for me to disappear, yet to sleep, and it's 9:15 a.m. Have a great stream. Oh, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Hope you have a good sleep. It's a bit late to be going to bed. So we have another unassigned division here. Let's throw him in. And now we do have the army experience available to increase the division size, but I'm not going to do that until we get a bit more infantry equipment. I don't think there would be much point. Technology, again, we are primarily focusing on the industrial side of things to build that up. Okay, almost 150 political power points now. So I can choose something like a silent workhorse to get even more political power over time. I could choose something like increase or improve worker conditions to increase stability. And stability being only 60%, actually, I think I would choose improve worker conditions for now. Because once you then declare war, or at least you have an offensive war, because you are the person saying, "Hey, buddy, I'm gonna pound your ass," then you actually do lose a significant portion of your stability. So I would like to get my stability up before actually declaring war on something. So I'll spend my points there. Check the research. Okay, 60 days for the industry, and for the armament effort, we have just 20 days. I put a post on my Discord. Hopefully a couple people pop by. Anyway, really time for me to go. Otherwise, I won't be on myself later. All right. Good luck. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'll go have a look at your Discord after this. So we see here, this is, oh dear, a lot of things happening at once. Okay, so the US Congress passes the Neutrality Act. This is actually telling you some of the things that the other countries around the world are doing. And when it says US Congress passes Neutrality Act, the Neutrality Act is actually a national focus that the US has taken and researched, or not researched, but progressed in and chosen to do. And this tells you kind of the politics that that nation is going with. And they won't always go with the Neutrality Act, but I think when you choose the historical AI focuses, this will be the one that they take. You can, of course, choose to turn the historical AI focuses off, and then the US might decide not to be neutral, or the US might decide to be communist, or the US might decide to be fascist. That's one of the other great things about the kind of replayability of this game, is that when you turn historical AI focuses off, kind of anything can happen then. All kinds of magical and wonderful things can happen. Germany could turn into a monarchy, the UK could decide to be communist, all kinds of different funny things. But the AI, or the historical AI focuses, have been turned on for this playthrough because I find that it kind of keeps things predictable and things tend to progress in the way you expect. and that allows you then to have a little bit more comfort knowing that the USSR isn't just suddenly going to declare war on you because it felt like it, because historically that didn't happen, right? Okay, there's the extra military factory. So now there's 3 military factories here. And as I said before, now that this has reached 6 units of steel, to me it is now worth it to trade out a civilian factory for some steel so that production will be increased. So let's trade with Germany. And so now I will get 8 steel from Germany and I will give them one of my civilian factories in return. And now when we look at production, it goes from 0 to 6. This changes to a green color and it shoots up in terms of how much is being produced per day. And this is going to make it very easy to gain a surplus of equipment, even such that I might now decide to either add another unit for training here, and I might even edit the infantry division here to make it a little bit larger. So what I can do, I press the plus here, infantry, and infantry again. This will cost 5 of the military experience resource, of which I have 10. So why don't I just actually increase it again twice like this? This is going to give me a significant deficit, but the difference between no resources and full resources and now 3 military factories producing the infantry equipment, I think is gonna be fine. I'm at a deficit of 2,000 infantry equipment, but I think that will be fixed pretty pretty well over time. So I forgot to choose my next national focus. Now, I think for the moment I do have enough military factories. I could choose to add another one in, and then again continue producing even more infantry equipment, which will allow me to train more divisions or make my divisions even larger if I like. But I would like to benefit my industry a bit more. So I'm going to go for some more civilian factories. And the other really, really, really valuable national focus down here is the extra research slot, which is down here. So we have to take construction effort 2, infrastructure effort 2, and then we can get this one, the extra research slot. When you only have, as minor nation Iran, when you only have 2 research slots, adding an extra one is a 50% increase, which is huge. And you don't want to take that national focus too late because you can get so much benefit out of it. However, Iran has so many things it needs in terms of industry and other things like that, that it does unfortunately sometimes, have to wait a little bit before you actually take it. But I'm going to work towards it now because it is so valuable. Let's check the research tree. So the industry is almost done. That will also increase the production speed of this infantry equipment. Xinjiang joins the Chinese United Front, so that's over here. So there's going to be a war between China and Japan over on this side, as there was historically. Research is finished. And now we can check. Let's see. So these industrial research options are all too far ahead of time. So we don't want to choose them. 1.5 years ahead of time is too much. And so it's going to take 419 days if I want to take construction 3. It's not really efficient to do that. So I'm not going to further research on the industrial side of things. We can check the engineering for the research speed. This is 0.54 years ahead of time. I would still like to wait a little bit more before taking that so it's more efficient. But what that really means is then we have some kind of free options as to what we're going to research. And because I'm going to be using mainly, well not mainly, entirely infantry in my war against Iraq, which is coming up, spoiler alert, then taking some of these other research things will help me to do that. So for example, support weapons 1 here, this will increase my infantry defense and breakthrough by 5%. Essentially, without explaining exactly what breakthrough is, this just makes your infantry stronger. And as long as you take some of these research options to make your infantry stronger before you go into war, you should at least have a small advantage over your opponent. So this is like, you can understand it as we just cycle through a few different things. We make sure that we are doing our national focus. We check to see if we have 100 or 150 political power points, which we can then spend on something. We check our research to see whether it's finishing soon, and we need to prepare to change that as well. And then we are just kind of waiting until, no, I got a nice follow there from Hussein 2008. Thank you, appreciate that. So now actually the main thing that I am waiting for or trying to work towards is fascist popularity being 50%. Once that happens, I can change the government and then I can start preparing for war. Now, sometimes you get random events that will increase the the popularity of fascism by 10%, which I haven't gotten so far. And if that doesn't happen for me, there are some things I can do to help it go along the way I want it to go. And we do that here with this open up political discourse option. And this will cost me 75 points to spend. It doesn't give me anything for those 75 points. But what it does, if I select it, this then opens up some extra options available. So then we get expand civil support. I can spend political power, but also weekly stability for a total of 12% to gain some extra fascism support. I could discredit the government, and this will reduce the popularity of non-aligned, which is the white one here. It will reduce its popularity by 10%, which you would think would increase the popularity of fascism by 10%, but most of the time actually does give a little bit of popularity to the other two parties, Democratic and Communist, but there is still a significant boost for the one you want. And then you also have hold national referendum. Hello, I'm from Iran, Tabriz. Oh, welcome. We are playing as Iran and you are from Iran. It's the perfect combination. So once we actually get more than 50% support for fascism, we can change the government to fascist, but we will need 100 political power points and that 50% support. Amelia Earhart disappears. A loss for aviation. She doesn't always disappear. Actually, that event I think is a 50-50. Sometimes she manages to go around the world, and sometimes she disappears. Not that it actually has any effect on us. Leadership purges in the Soviet Union. Again, this is not just something that will always pop up. This is actually connected to the national focuses that the AI is taking in the USSR. And now Japan declares war on China, so they will start having a jolly good fight over there. Yunnan joins the Chinese United Front, and we have some research available. Marco Polo Bridge incident, okay. So again, we don't have the option really to efficiently take these industry researches here. This one I would say is almost worth taking. You know what, let's just take it so we don't need to keep thinking about it. Okay, so all of these factions here now, Tibet, Sanma, Yunnan, they are joining China in their war against Japan. There finishes the national focus for the extra civilian factory, and now we'll take the infrastructure because we are working down to this extra research slot, which is so incredibly valuable. Let's have a look at the recruitment. Okay, one of them just finished, and so we throw them into the what is it? Into the thing with the general, into the group with the general here. Actually, now that I've already increased the template up a little bit, I might stop the exercises, at least for all of these units, because exercises also cost equipment. You lose equipment over time when your units are exercising. And so if you want to stop a deficit like this, then one way to to aid that is to not have all your units exercising, because they also use up equipment doing that. So if I stop exercising, but I just want this one unit to exercise so that he can increase his experience level. We see here experience level 2 trained versus experience level 3 regular. Regular gives plus 25% modifier in combat. That is not a small difference. But what I can do is I can take this one unit, I can right click on this green cross here, and then I can just exercise this one unit to increase his experience level while not using all of the resources and equipment to train all of these ones as well. How old are you? I am 31. I forgot. I almost said 30, but I'm 31 now. How old are you, Hussein? So almost again 100 or 150 political power. Let's have a look at the popularity of fascism. It is 40. Okay. So now I have a choice. If I want, I could discredit the government and gain something close to a 10% increase in the popularity of fascism for a very small cost of 1% base stability. And that then might give me, enough popularity of fascism to hold the referendum and change the government type. And there is another neat little thing that happens along with that. I'm not going to spoil it for you just yet. You'll see for yourself. You are 14. Oh, well, welcome. Do you play this game, Hussein? This is quite a difficult game, I think. Okay, so a few things happen at once. And this green bar here essentially means that you can wait this long, and waiting this long will not really have any effects on you. But once the green bar fills, you won't, excuse me, you won't actually be able to use the political power points that go into researching national focuses, and kind of there's just a maximum limit here. The same for the research trees here. We see there's a green bar. Even though nothing is being researched, what that means is that you can, well, we see here 3 days out of 30 days saved. So we can wait up to 30 days and then still choose the technology, and it's not going to make any difference. Those 30 days will still be applied to the technology research. But if we wait 40 days, we still can only save 30. Those 10 days of possible research have just been lost. So you can wait if you want to, but you just don't wait more than 30 days. And the same here for the national focus. Most of the time, you don't want to wait more than 10 days. Now, selecting a national focus does actually affect, how much political power you gain, and I'll show you what I mean. So it's at 2.08 per day. If I select a national focus, let's take the armament effort, because we still don't have enough guns yet. And then when we look here, we see armament effort 3 minus 1. So it costs 1 political power per day to actually research your national focuses. So if you are kind of ever short of political power, one way to help yourself to fix that is to just stop researching a national focus. Of course, sometimes the national focuses are so strong that you don't really want to do that, but it is an option available to you at least. So research slot, not researching something. Let's see. They are a little bit ahead of time. Maybe what we can do is we can now choose a land doctrine. And each one kind of suits a different kind of nation that has different advantages. The mobile warfare doctrine is really good for nations that have a lot of motorized, mechanized tank units, such as Germany. The superior fire doctrine is good for nations that have artillery built into their divisions. It has some nice bonuses for that. The grand battle doctrine, it has quite a few bonuses for things like entrenchment speed and planning and things like that. And that's why it's called grand battle plan, I guess. And then the mass assault doctrine is generally used by countries like China or Russia because it suits the pure huge numbers of infantry style of warfare. But I think I'm going to take superior firepower. So it's going to take 148 days, and it says that all frontline battalions will have their soft attack increased by 10%. Essentially, you can understand that as, here, if I start researching, and we go to the infantry unit, we click on a template here, we see soft attack is 48, okay? So this is not the best screen to show it, it's better over here. Okay, so when it says line infantry, what it means is anything within these squares here. The line on the left, which has support above it, does not count as a line unit. So if it affects line units, any unit within these squares will be affected. Units on this side will not be affected. Support at the moment, we only have support artillery available, but we could also bring things like, go to the research tab here, and we have a look at support. We could have things like engineer companies, recon companies, military police, maintenance. All of these things are able to be added into those support companies if you have them researched. And they have some nice benefits all of their own. But we don't have any of those available to us just yet. This unit now has finished being trained up to experience level 3, so now we can just throw him back into the regular army so that he doesn't keep wasting equipment training, whereas this unit at the lower experience level does benefit from that exercising. Have an unassigned division, he can also exercise, and another factory now. We have 3 out of 4 military factories. Put an extra one here, and now we can use all 8 of the steel that we got from trading with Germany purely for infantry equipment. And we can see also that the deficit has decreased from 2,000 down to 1,000, and now producing 24 infantry equipment per day, and that is not yet even at maximum efficiency. So hopefully by the time we get to war with Iraq, we will have enough equipment to not run out while fighting them. Let's see, should we take... Yes, judging that we only have 100,000 recruitable population left now, this extra 5% population, which is huge, is definitely going to be a solid choice. And now 261 political power, 46% popularity for fascism. So now we can try this changing of government. So we can discredit the current government, which will decrease the popularity of non-aligned for 50 points. Let's do that. Now if we have a look again, we can see that this has gone down to 44. The popularity of fascism is now 56%, and the threshold we needed was 50%. So now we can hold a national referendum for 100 political power points, and this will change the government from non-aligned to fascist. Now the other nice thing that it does that I didn't want to spoil for you if you don't know, is it also changes your country flag and country name. And I really like the new name that a fascist government of Iran gets, and you'll see why now. Let's hold the national referendum. If the people want it, we will hold it. Off we go. And now we are no longer Iran. We are now known as the New Persian Empire. A really cool name. And we even get a new flag with what looks like a lion holding a sword. I mean, it doesn't get much cooler than a lion holding a sword, right? This is why I like to do it this way. And now that that's done, what I can do is I can now start justifying a war goal against Iraq. So if you do want to interact with any other country on the map, you can just click on any of their states, click on the state owner flag here. This will bring up the options that you have for interacting diplomatically with this state. And I want to go to war with Iraq. I want to take all of their stuff. So what I have to do first is we see that declare war is actually grayed out. So I have to justify a war goal first. If I click on this, I click on conquer. It then says, which of these regions do you think you would like to conquer? And now, if you're a beginner player, you might think, well, actually, I want all of these things. But you might notice that as we click more of the regions, the political power cost and the duration required to justify the war goal actually goes up. And there is no difference really at this stage for choosing one, two, or three in terms of whether you can take over all of Iraq or not. So it will save you political power and it will go faster if you just select one and then press send. Now we have to wait 300 days and then we will be able to declare war on Iraq. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my army and I want them to kind of line up on the border here, right? So all of these buttons we have along this bar here are the tools we have for war and moving our units. And the one that I need to use right now is the frontline button. All we have to do is we can click on this button. We see that the border here is flashing. If we mouse over the border, it flashes green, and we just left click. Then the border becomes our border from Iran with Iraq. And all of these units that are in this group with the general will then try to move their way to the front line and spread out as best they can. Now, it's not enough to just make the front line. This is just the first step. The other important thing that we have to do is we also need to draw an offensive line. Now, the only reason that we want to draw an offensive line is because it allows our units to get what's called a planning bonus. And every day they will increase this planning bonus up to about 36%, and that essentially is just a free 36% increase to their attack statistic. And a free 36% increase in statistic is very nice and it's always worth taking. And so to do that, once we have the front line, all we do is we click offensive line and we just right click anywhere in the country here. So I'm going to right click on Baghdad, and then we get a small arrow pointing to Baghdad and this little line around it. Those don't really matter, they're not important. We are just using it to get that free planning bonus for those free statistics. And then we press space again, let time resume. We see all of the units now move their way to this front line, line themselves up along the border with Iraq. So I think the logistics should be just in time. In 300 days, we should no longer be at a deficit of infantry equipment. And hopefully with the research we are choosing here for the superior firepower, with the infantry support weapons and things here, we should also have a kind of statistical advantage over Iraq. But a lot of the time this fight is fairly even in terms of manpower, and the way we're going to win this war actually is through maneuvering and understanding how we can kind of create an advantage for ourselves in combat. That's another reason that I like to teach people to play this game. Can you change the name to your liking? Cool name and flag for sure. You can't change the name to your liking. It's already set. And every country has, I think, at least 4 different names that it can have, depending on whether the government is democratic, communist, fascist, or non-aligned neutral. And so that is, in some ways, 4 different ways to play any country. And you can change the name, you can change the flag. I think maybe the flag doesn't always change, but a lot of the time it does change, and you get some very interesting nation names and nation flags that you can play around with and role play, I guess, as you like. So as you are declaring war or justifying war against another nation, you will get these pop-ups that don't really mean anything. They are just the pop-ups you get when you are declaring war that says we are angry with this country. So that's the justifying war, right? These people insulted us. This country was ours 500 years ago, so we want it back, and other things like that. Politics. Okay, so now that the government did change, we can now see in military youth that we get this extra bonus. Actually, I don't think there's any way to know that you get this extra bonus without really being experienced with the game. But we see now it says the change in popularity of fascism would be 20%, which is pretty good, along with the extra recruitable population. And because the popularity of your government type also affects stability, that is a pretty strong bonus to get. But as I said before, as the popularity increases, this daily change will also decrease. So when it was below 20%, we had 100% of the change. Then above that, it was 50%. And now that we are up to 58.4% popularity, it says that this popularity affects our scale to 20%. So we're only getting 1/5 of the change that we want over time. So essentially what it means, it's easy to change the first 20%. It's less easy to change up to 50%. After 50%, it becomes harder and harder to increase the popularity of your government type. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to wait until popularity is at around 70% before I take that focus, which will then boost it up to 90%, and 90% is just fine and dandy. But I really want this extra research slot, so that's what I am absolutely going to go for this time. Now that these two units have finished exercising, we can just right click on this general. They will join this group, and they will also automatically move over to the front line. Now, something also that we can pay attention to here is the terrain type. And the terrain of each kind of state here, or province as we look at it, can be either hills or mountain or desert. And moving across some terrain types will cause your units to suffer attrition. Attrition means that they're going to lose either manpower or equipment or both. And so now I see that both of these infantry units here are moving through mountains. And this one has this small red skull in the top left corner. And it says total attrition plus 40% because of a mountain. So if I don't want these units to suffer this attrition, because they are, safely within my country's borders and I'm not at war, we have a different way that we can move the units, which is much faster and through which they suffer no attrition no matter what kind of terrain they're moving through. And that is called the strategic redeployment, which is this, what looks like might be a ladder, but I think is supposed to be a train track. If we click on this and we right click on where we want the unit to go, we see the arrow changes color from green to a kind of browny yellow. And this will make the unit move much faster, suffer no attrition from any terrain type. However, it will lose all of its organization. And organization is the statistic that the unit needs in order to engage in combat effectively. So you don't want to be moving units with strategic redeployment to send them to go and fight something. But when you want to move them, say, to a front line before a war, to move them across dangerous territory like a lot of mountains, a lot of desert, you want to save yourself from losing, that manpower and that equipment when they move through it normally, then we just use the strategic redeployment order, and they will move much faster, and they will take no attrition. So let's do it with these two, and we press, and we see they move much faster, but they lose the whole green bar of what organization. Sorry, I forgot what it was called then. Okay, the research is finished. There is an unassigned division that can start exercising, and this one is the same. We can check how long it will be until we can declare war. So the progress is 82 out of 300 days. Okay, so we still have 220 days. So we do need to go back and check this occasionally so that we are not doing something else, or that we have, just to check that we have the whole army is ready, the whole army is on the front line, things are as we want them to be before we declare war. But we still have 220 days, so nothing really to worry about at the moment. Let's do this research. That is too far ahead of time. Check industry. Still a little bit too far ahead of time. Infantry. I'll take improved infantry equipment because, like I said, my whole army is infantry, and these small bonuses to soft attack will give me that small advantage over the units that Iraq has, if Iraq has not also researched this technology. Decisions available now, almost 150 political power. And let's check construction. So construction in Tehran, okay. There's only one more of the infrastructure left to build in Tehran, and then we will have the option to take the integrated industry for political PowerPoints, and I do want to show you that. So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to keep my political power for now. Now we have some extra research. Let's see. So we could continue with the land doctrine. We're researching this one. Let's take the support weapons. It takes 104 days, and if you remember, we still have 200 days until we can declare war on Iraq. So this will be finished in time, and I know I will be able to benefit from this advantage over Iraq when we have that war. Okay, and we check these ones. We can check logistics. Now we see that we do have a positive balance of infantry equipment finally. We are no longer in a deficit, and we do not want to go to war with any kind of deficit whatsoever. We definitely want to have a surplus of both equipment and manpower whenever we go to war. Because of course, as your units fight and defend and attack, you are going to lose men and you are going to lose equipment doing so as well. So if you don't have, enough reserves of manpower and enough reserves of equipment, then your units are going to be lower in strength, they're going to be less effective in battle, and that is not what you want. Let's finally, we can take the extra research slot. And actually, what I'm kind of banking on when fighting Iraq is that Iraq will not have those reserves of equipment at least, and so after they go through some fighting of me, well, not of me, with me. Again, this is just the justifying war pop-ups that we get. This is my leader speaking against Iraq. Does Iraq belong to the Iraqi? Let us ask ourselves a better question. Does the future belong to the Iraqi? The future belongs to the new Persian Empire. How is this construction doing? Okay, the construction has finished now. So we have 10 infrastructure in Tehran. If we have a look at decisions now, we have an extra decision here under economic policy, which says region-wide industrial integration. And it says that essentially this will just give us one extra building slot in Tehran. It costs us 100 political power points for that. And that is an easy way to get some extra factory slots. So I can now build some extra factories here. This is an easy way to gain some extra factory slots, and having higher levels of infrastructure will also increase the speed at which the factories can be built in this state. So you see, these two things kind of work together to benefit each other. At least through war, there will be an end to this conflict. So there's some more infantry units available, just finished training now. We can get them exercising. We can take both of these units, right-click on the general to add them to the group here. And again, I don't want them moving through the mountains and wasting the manpower and the infantry equipment as they do that. So let's see, let's send this one to here. And let's send this one here. And using the strategic redeployment there, super fast, and we don't lose anything from moving through those mountains. The Civil War of Spain seems to be coming to a close. nationalist Spain is winning as they did historically. The historical AI focuses are on, so that is why. There is a research done that will provide those nice bonuses to the infantry. Now, we see here that I do have the option to start researching a higher technology infantry equipment. And sometimes that's good, but also sometimes it's not so good because this is also all, of course, linked to production. And now because I've had 4 factories producing infantry equipment for a long time, the production efficiency has managed to go almost up to its cap of 70%. It's at 63%. If I then change what these factories are producing, even if I change from one kind of infantry equipment to another kind, this efficiency is going to drop significantly, as well as higher tier equipment requiring more time to produce. So it could be that if I change it now, if I research this new infantry equipment and I change my factories to start producing that, I could change from 31 a day and I could go right back down to 6 or 7 per day. And that's going to be a real problem if I'm just about to go to war when I really want a nice surplus, a reserve, a stockpile of weapons so that I can replenish, what is lost during the fighting. So at least definitely if you are about to go into a war, you don't want to be changing these things unless you already have a significant surplus of that equipment. If I had 20,000 surplus infantry equipment, then I would have no problem switching it over because I know even if, they are using it all up, they're very unlikely to go through 20,000 of them. But as it is currently just at 1,300, I don't really want to risk that just now. So we did get that extra research slot, and here we have 3 research slots available rather than just 2. That's wonderful. So now let's have a browse through what do I want to consider now. I think I would like to take some superior firepower doctrine. We will check the engineering here, and I forgot about this one, but this is also a very important technology radio. And it says it increases the reinforce rate by 5%. What that means is that when your units are fighting with other units and you want other units to join into the fight, they can't just automatically join. You ask them to fight and then they sit in like a reserve list and they have a small percentage chance every so often of joining that battle. But the base rate is something like 2%, which is tiny. The radio increases that rate by 5%, so up to 7%, which is at least reasonable and usable compared to 2%. So before any kind of war, you absolutely want to have this technology, the radio technology. It is very, very important. Let's have a look at the industry technology. Only 0.47 years ahead of time, I think is fine personally. I already took these nice infantry buffs. These other ones are too far ahead of time to take right now. I don't want to take any of these support company equipment because this equipment has to be produced first before you are able to use these extra support companies. And all of my industry at the moment is focused just on making infantry equipment. So this would not be a strong choice, I think. I don't, again, the same reasoning for making tanks, it requires the industry to do it, so that's a no. Again, the same for artillery. So then I think I have a choice here that some extra land doctrine could be useful. And then one extra thing, let's have a look. We have the radio. We have industry at 0.47. Okay, that's a fair choice. Let's take the dispersed industry upgrade. And the next national focus, now that we finished this one, let's take the construction effort and get an extra 2 civilian factories. This is an even better one than the previous ones because each one here gives 1. This one actually gives 2 free factories for the same amount of time, so it's very helpful. Let's check the popularity of fascism is 63. So then maybe after this one, I will take military youth and get that nice boost in popularity for my government type as well, which will affect the stability, because we see here at the top, currently affected by ruling party popularity plus 9.5%. So because of the popularity of the fascist government, I get a bonus to my stability. If I increase the popularity, the bonus to stability will also increase. And increasing the stability then gives these further benefits of political power gain and extra factory output. Now I do have 150 political power, and because I know I'm going to be going to war fairly soon, let's check how soon. We have 97 days before war, so because it will be reasonably soon, one of the things that we can take to help us again in the war is we can check the military high command here. And here we get some nice bonuses to war, essentially, to different aspects. So we have division recovery rate, and this is the one that I wanted to take, infantry expert. This will give all of my infantry divisions 10% extra attack and 15% extra defense. That is huge, a huge difference. I'm trying to take all these small separate increases to attack and defense from multiple different places that will then allow my infantry to perform, much better than they would without it. So we get the nice bonus from this. We've got some more bonuses from the technology in the land doctrine here, the soft attack, the organization. This one won't be finished in time. But we also have the bonuses here for soft attack and defense and breakthrough as well. So it's just putting all these small things together so that you can have, as much of an advantage as you can have when you then begin the war. So these units are almost finished training, then we'll throw them into the army here. Okay, nothing to wait for here, nothing to wait for here. Then we can just sit back and wait a little as time speeds by. That is the end of the Spanish Civil War, nationalist victory. And now Spain is known as nationalist Spain, just like we are now known as the New Persian Empire. Okay, these two have finished training. Right click to add them into this general's army, and let's use the strategic redeployment to put them somewhere useful. Let's say, okay, so this is a good opportunity to explain, I guess, how the combat tends to work, or the most advantageous way to combat, to fight. And so for each kind of land tile here, you can attack with your units in this tile onto any adjacent tile. And so generally the way the AI puts it to use is, it wants to use as many different tiles as it can to attack one tile. If it can attack from multiple different directions, you can attack with more units rather than less. There is a limit to the amount of units that can enter into combat at once. So usually that would be about 3 infantry units per tile. So if I put 5 infantry units in this tile and I attack with them, probably only 3 of them will actually be in battle at a time. But because both of these tiles here are bordering on this tile here, I could put 3 in here and 3 in here, and then attack with all 6 into this tile here, because the limit is 3 per tile, but I have 2 tiles bordering. And so in this way, you can stack the odds in your favor, and that's also what the AI tries to do. But understanding that, and understanding that this is what the AI is going to try to do, we can have a look at the border here, and we can see that the AI has 1, 2, 3 tiles bordering this one tile here, this Kermanshah town. And so probably I can predict that the AI will try to attack this tile, and so having more defenses rather than less here is probably going to be a good idea. Now this is a mountain province, and mountain provinces give bonuses to defense. If we mouse over the terrain here, it says mountain. Unit effects, attack 40%, division attrition plus 40%, enemy air support minus 10%, and movement cost is times 2. What that means is if you attack into a mountain province, your units will only be able to have 40% of their attack statistic, which is less than half, which is really, really significant. And so this is why, when you're looking at war and you're trying to win battles and win a war, paying attention to the terrain is incredibly important. Attacking into mountains is most often a terrible decision. And there are similar effects to things such as attacking across a river, also tends to be pretty awful. Hills also give a nice bonus. Let's see here. Hills attack is 70%. So it's not as significant as a mountain, but it's still significant. So when we look for the areas where we can try to break through, we want to look for a place that is not across a river, that is not a hill, that is not a mountain. Primarily, we want something like plains, which we can see here. These are the perfect areas to attack because there's no effect. And so this province here is a desert, and while when you attack into a desert, we can see that there is some extra attrition. There's no effect on your unit's attack statistic. So you can still attack with full strength into a desert, even if you do have to suffer some loss of men and equipment for doing so. But that's more effective than, say, trying to attack into the hills here, and especially more effective than trying to attack into the mountains here and here. So I am not going to attack these two provinces. I think that would be a pretty bad idea. So what I don't need is I don't need 3 units here, and I can take 2 of them and I can put them down here. This is where I want to break through, okay? So let's take this unit and strategically redeploy here, and this unit, and strategically redeploy to this tile here, and then we will attack with both tiles into this desert tile here and try to break through either into the plains here and start encircling the enemy units on the front line here, or even if we can take Baghdad, of course, that would be pretty perfect. So I have some more divisions here that I can set to exercising, but let's check how long we have before we can go to war. We have 30 days. So this stage is not really worth setting these units to start exercising, to start training, because they won't be ready for the war, they won't be ready to fight, and they probably won't be able to reach the next level of training anyway. So at this stage, I'm just going to add them into the army, let them join the front line here. Okay, now this has finished. Now I will take the military youth, I think. Let's see. This is at 66%. An extra 20% would be pretty helpful. Alternatively, I could go, say, for the army effort, and this would give me some nice research bonus for the land doctrines, and then after that, another land doctrine, some equipment research bonuses, which are very nice. Let's take the military youth. The extra recruitable population would be good. Check the surplus of equipment, which is reasonable. And these units are going to try and move through the mountains because I didn't strategically redeploy them. So let's do that. Let's send this one here. Let's send this one. Okay, that's just a hill and not a mountain. And now something is happening here that is sometimes a bit of an issue with the AI relating to front lines in Hearts of Iron, is that the AI wants to spread out across the front line in whatever way it thinks is best, which is not always best. And so in this case, what we can do is we can delete the front line and we can create smaller front lines for specific groups of infantry. So I want only 1 infantry unit here defending this mountain because it's easy to defend. And I want 2 infantry units on the hill here because it's less easy to defend than a mountain. But I do want the bulk of my army in these 2 provinces here, like I said, to try and punch through the front line, and then we can start trying to encircle the enemy units. So I actually want this unit to be in the mountain here. So let's tell him to come over here with strategic redeployment. I want this unit also over here. Let's send that. The cavalry unit, actually, no, I've changed my mind. We're going to leave one unit here, and we'll take the cavalry unit. Cavalry is a little bit faster than standard infantry. And so after you get these breakthroughs, once you punch a hole in a line, if you can get your cavalry through, they can then start moving and capturing territory quicker than infantry could. So let's just set up the units here. Now they have no front line assigned to them. We can assign a particular group of infantry their own miniature front line. So what we do is we click front line here, and we hold right click, and then we get a small front line here, and we do want to also apply a small offensive line. Also right click here, and now these units are assigned to this tiny front line, and because they have the offensive line also assigned to them, they will then continue this planned preparation attack bonus, which goes up to 35%, which is very useful, just free attack statistic, basically. So we do the same here. We give them their own miniature front line and their own offensive line. Same here. And we can do this for every tile. It is a little bit finicky, I guess, but it works perfectly for what I want to achieve here, which is that they stay exactly where I told them to be, and they don't try and move in what they think is the best way to spread themselves out, because very often that is not the best way to spread themselves out. Of course, if you are playing with much bigger nations like the USSR, for example, and you don't want to specifically try to manage 300 infantry units, then just drawing one big front line and one big offensive line, can work just fine. But I like to really micromanage these small battles, and we see then also how we can, specifically understand the mechanics of maneuver warfare, how movement is affected by the different kinds of terrain, and how we can also then, try to encircle enemy units and make the AI kind of dance to our tune, rather than just wondering how we can do something, or just one big fat offensive line with the AI taking over all of the kind of warfare for us. Let's see how long we have left for the war. We have 10 days until we can declare war. Okay, so we are perfectly set up pretty much for this. Just wait for the justification to be ready, and then the war will begin. There we go. So now we can click again on here, go to Iraq, and now we can declare war. We want to conquer, and we just press send. The new Persian Empire declared war on Iraq, and we do not want to do war at 5 speed. 2 speed is usually sufficient, unless everything is fine and dandy, in which case then we can go a little bit faster. Hoi 4 tutorial. Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to play this game, if you've never played it before, I hope this will help you to understand some more things a little bit better. So the first thing I do now that war has been declared, now that I've reduced the speed and all of my units are ready with their own personal front lines and things, the first thing I do actually is I wait to see if the AI will attack me first. Because when your units have been sat still for a while in a province, they gain something called an entrenchment bonus. We see here. These units are entrenched. The average defensive combat is 10%. What that means is they get a 10% bonus to their fighting, to the defensive statistics. But that bonus disappears as soon as they attack, or as soon as they try to move. So if I attack first, then these units, you see here, this unit is entrenched. It receives a 30% defensive combat bonus. Now 30% is huge. So if I can just wait and let the AI remove that entrenchment bonus for me, then that's a free 30% I have gone, right? So let's just advance and see. Okay, so the AI automatically starts attacking, and just like I said, they start attacking where they think they have the most advantage, where they have the most tiles bordering, which is here. And this is a mountain. I prepared by having 3 units here anyway. All 4 of these units are attacking into a mountain. And so they are suffering attrition of 40%. They are losing manpower and they are losing equipment from that. And so if we click on the like green explosion here, we can get some statistics. We get to see the very high defensive value that my troops have from experience, from the entrenchment, from this being, my own country. You get a defensive bonus for defending territory you own, and then the commander skill as well. Now, the defense of these 3 units compared to the attacking value is hugely different. This is going to be a very easy win. And generally, once this number reaches 100, that's when the combat is over. So 98 means this combat is going to be over very quickly. We see this unit here has run out of organization almost entirely, and if a unit has no organization, it can't attack and it can't defend either. And so this is one of the statistics that you want to reduce to win a battle. Now, strength represents the manpower and equipment of the division. And if strength is also reduced to 0, equally like organization, the unit cannot fight, and 50% strength also means it has reduced combat stats as well. So here the AI is being kinda dumb in attacking across the river here. And if we click on the battle marker here, we see here that it has this river crossing penalty of minus 34% attack and minus 30% breakthrough. And so defending from units that are attacking across a river is very easy, and is a very easy way to make your opponent waste their manpower and resources, because I think this is also a desert province. They are also suffering 20% attrition, which means they are going to lose even more units and even more equipment from doing that. And so generally what I want to do here is I just want to let the AI exhaust itself attacking, and then we counterattack and we punch through and we make a mess of them. So this unit already got messed up pretty good and ran out of organization, but really I just want to wait for this one to run out as well. Now this battle is going to take a little bit longer to finish, and I feel fairly confident that nothing is going to go wrong here. Like, my defense is fairly solid, so I can actually just speed it up a little bit until this combat is over, and then try to punch through here. Okay, they finished attacking now. Now I will reduce back to 2 speed, and I will take 2 of these units, not 3. I'm going to leave 1 to defend on this tile here. So when we draw a box here, if we just want to select 2, we can actually hold shift, click on one of the units, and that will deselect it. And I also want to bring these units as well, but I want to leave 1. So again, we are holding shift to select or deselect units, and then with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, we will attack this now half strength single unit from 2 different directions, and this should be a very easy battle to win. We can see here it's already up to 93, and if we mouse over, it says we estimate that the battle will last less than a day. The unit is already at less than half organization and only 76% strength because it was attacking into a desert province where it suffered attrition. And the same over here. Once this unit also finishes attacking, it will have reduced stats, and then I will again be able to attack from multiple directions to push them out of this territory. And so we don't need to attack everywhere at once. We can go for some nice different kinds of strategies or tactics, and so what I'm using here is basically just punch a hole in the line, and once that's done, then because I know that the AI has placed all of its units on the front line, it will be faced with a decision. It can move its units away from the front line to try and stop me from taking all of its territory in here. But if it does that, then my units will also start taking the territory on the front line. And essentially, it's just going to be a lose-lose situation for the AI. it doesn't have any way to win this battle now at this stage. Let's just up the speed to end this battle a little bit faster. The unit is almost at 0% strength, and there we go. Okay. Now this is one of the issues with the battle lines when you take territory, is they start to get a bit messy. So what I do is, whenever I take a new territory, is I just pause the game and I take the delete order here, and I just start deleting these battle lines that are next to the territory I'm about to take. These ones we don't need to delete, and these ones we don't need to delete because these territories are not being taken yet. It's not going to affect these front lines. So now that I have some units in here, we see that the AI does have an infantry division defending Baghdad. And I could try, I guess, to brute force my way into Baghdad and take it. But we don't need to, actually. What we can do is, if we start spreading out inside the country here, the AI will want to try and remaneuver to defend and to stop us from just taking the rest of the country while it's trying to hold onto a single line. Of course, that makes sense. But then what it will tend to do is it will tend to move its units around and probably will move the unit out of Baghdad anyway. And, then we can march in for free. So I'm going to move these units across into Karbala here. And I do have some units here moving across. That's why we can do this. Now, this unit did retreat across the river here, and I said we don't want to attack across a river. But because this unit is already so low on organization and strength, this attack is actually fine. Once these two units arrive here, generally what we want to do is we want to leave one unit defending territory we've gained, and then anything else will be used to spread out and start taking territory. So we see here that the AI is already moving one of its units across to this territory here. I'm going to send my units across the river this way. If we mouse over the unit, we can see how long it's going to take for it to arrive, and it says here 3 days and 3 hours. However, my cavalry is going to cross the river in just 15 hours. So this territory is going to be taken. And now we just have to check the rest of the lines. So there's more infantry being moved down here. I don't need 2 infantry units here defending this. So I'll select one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unassign him from this order here. Move him down to the mountain here. Move the mountain man down to here. And then move this guy also across the river. And now now that we've punched through, we can start trying to capture different parts of territory where we see that the AI doesn't have any defenses. So this territory immediately adjacent is open and free for the taking. So let's do that. We'll send the infantry along too. So this is like a little infantry shuffle. This unit comes down to defend here. This unit comes down to defend here. And then these units that we're defending here, I can actually just send across the river and then use them instead offensively. So the cavalry arriving first because they are faster than infantry divisions. I see here this unit is trying to cross the river into this territory here. Now if we check the time it will take him to arrive, it says 9 days. But for my cavalry unit to arrive here is only 21 hours. So if I make my unit arrive first, it will capture the territory, and then it will defend the territory against this infantry unit that is also crossing the river. And crossing the river will give him, an attack malice. It will reduce his attack statistics. And while the cavalry is defending, I can also move up these infantry to help defend as well. So there we go. Now the cavalry is defending against the infantry. Cavalry isn't a great combat unit, so it's not doing very well, but it's good enough to hold the line until these other infantry units can arrive. I'm going to leave one unit here because we don't want our units to get cut off. If units get cut off, then after 24 hours, they get a very bad statistic malice, and you never want that. If you can encircle enemy units, that's perfect, but always make sure to defend your own lines of supply so that it doesn't happen to your own units. Always keep one unit on the territories that you've captured so that you can defend it and it can't just be taken from you. And now we see that the AI is trying to move its units around to try and stop us from just freely taking territory. And what that's doing is weakening its own front line. And while it's also attacking my own units who are defending across a mountain. So I'm just going to keep an eye on where it moves its units and try to move my own units around it to capture freely. So I can send the cavalry unit across the river here to capture this town, Rumadia. This unit is now moving out of this hills province, and as I predicted, the AI is also moving its defending infantry out of Baghdad, which will allow me to capture it without a fight. So the AI has 3 units surrounding this province, right? And that's why I'm keeping at least 2 infantry units in here. There we go, we can do this now and take Baghdad for free. And the AI is even going to abandon this other hills province, which I will then also take. So the AI is essentially defeating itself because we can abuse how it wants to think about defending its territory. As long as we can defend our supply line that goes into the country, we can essentially now cut the country in half once we capture this territory here, and that's going to be very difficult to come back from for Iraq. And they are also abandoning the front lines here, so we can move in for free and just slowly start to push them into a smaller and smaller space. So let's see, this cavalry will arrive in 1 day and 15 hours, and this unit hasn't even arrived in the adjacent territory, so that's going to be an easy take. Okay, these 2 units now are trying to push into this province, which is undefended, but because they're moving across a river, it's going to take them a long time. And so what I can do is, well, this unit is moving across a river actually. This unit perhaps isn't. I can just move this unit here and it will take less time. It takes 1 day and 7 hours for my unit to reach this province, whereas this unit, it will take 2 days, this unit 4 days. So my unit will arrive first, and then we'll be able to defend, and we'll be defending this unit attacking across the river. And all the time that they are doing that, they are still suffering attrition while they are trying to move. As this unit is defending against these 2 units, I can then also counterattack with these 2 units onto this territory as well. I can even also counterattack with these 2 units onto this territory, and that will be a nice way to win the combat, I think. So these 2 territories have been abandoned. We move the units in, and we can delete the front lines so they don't get messy. The units will keep their planning preparation bonus for some time, even after we delete the front lines. So it's not like we delete it and they immediately lose it. There arrives the cavalry, and Iraq has been split in half. So let's see now, this unit looks like it's moving back to the mountains. It will take 2 days and 22 hours to arrive. My unit, 2 days and 17 hours, so it just has the advantage. So it will arrive first, and then we'll be able to defend in a mountain province, which is very, very easy. In which case then this unit no longer needs to defend this province because he was only defending it against this one. So we can move him down, let's see, to here. Now that these 2 units are attacking here, we can counterattack here. Check that these 2 units haven't moved yet. And now if we click on this, what we'll see here is that this unit, this one here, has this malice in multiple combat. It's trying to attack, and while attacking, it's also being attacked, and so then it gets this in multiple combat malice minus 50 attack and minus 50 defense, which is huge. And that is why counterattacks can be so effective. So my unit arrived and captured this territory, and the AI decides, no, I really wanted that, but it's too late. This is a mountain province, and they have no chance of taking that back. So now we just wait for this combat to finish, and we will delete the front line in advance so it doesn't get messy, like this is getting messy now. Delete that one. And we don't really need 2 units defending because there's a river here. So what I can do is I can move one of them to come up to here. And maybe I'll get these 2 units to counterattack this unit here that is attacking across the river. And he immediately stops attacking because he got that malice. I'll send 1 unit across the river, 1 unit up to here, and then I can move this unit into here to grab some free territory. What I might do actually is I might move him across into the territory up to Rumadia, and then I can use my cavalry, because they move faster, to then start capturing this extra territory here. So it's like a kind of domino effect. And there are 2 infantry units here, of which I do not need 2 to defend with, I think. So again, the domino effect, if I move 1 here, then actually I don't need the 1 to stay here. I can also move it across to here. In which case, I do not need this 1 to stay here and defend. And so I can move it either across to here or this way again. And this is, just by having a few more units in the AI, after punching a hole through the line, we then just start making a mess of its attempt to defend when it just doesn't have enough units to do so effectively. I'm getting a lot of notifications here, so let's choose the next national focus quickly. Let's do the national effort for that nice land doctrine research bonus. Let's do the research slot. Let's see. Don't want to take the new equipment yet. Let's do the construction. Some unassigned divisions have just been finished training, so we can use the strategic redeployment to quickly move them down to Baghdad. And I again have 2 units here. Okay, I see this unit is moving to this adjacent province. Let's check the time. 2 days and 1 hour. My unit will arrive in 18 hours. Okay, so this is a free take here. I will arrive first, and defending will be quite easy, I think. This province actually is wide open, so I will stop this domino effect here, and I will take this undefended province instead. And just in case it starts making the front line messy over here, I will delete this front line in advance. There the unit arrives and is now defending. Okay, that's good. And we can do the domino effect again this way. 1 across here. Let's send the strategic redeployment actually across the river because it's so much faster. And so once the infantry is pushed further into here, we can then start, encircling around and capture this territory, box the remaining forces here into this pocket, and box the remaining forces here into this pocket around Mosul. Because we took Baghdad, which was the capital had to be relocated, which is now Mosul. And we can click on this "We are at war" notification here. we can see really the differences between how the war is going. We can see some interesting statistics, how many divisions each side has. So Iraq has between 6 and 17. Actually, we can just count exactly how many they have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Whereas we have 17, so we have the advantage there. So far we have 2,300 in casualties, whereas Iraq has 17,000. And this bar will show us how far to capitulation Iraq is. Once it reaches 100%, Iraq will surrender, the war will be over, and we take whatever we like. And the bar at the top here, just showing you what the AI thinks the war, how the war is going. So it thinks that the war is going very much in my favor, which it is. And now that this defense has stopped here, we can move the infantry across to here and use the cavalry to move here. And if I hold shift now, I can also tell him, after you've gone here, to move down here. This unit is moving to this province here, so I would capture it if there wasn't another infantry unit moving there anyway. So now there are 2 units attacking my 1 unit, and because this is a plains province, I don't get any bonuses to defense here. So if we click on this, we see that the statistics between them are fairly even and going a little bit against me. So all I'll do is I'll just move one of my units to come and reinforce in this battle, and that would be enough to turn the tide in my favor. So the cavalry already taking this province here and then moving down to this one. The AI is still attacking into the mountains here and suffering horrible, horrible losses, I'm sure. If we want to have a look at some of the battles that have already happened that maybe we didn't check, or we want to see the end results, which we have a button over here in the top right corner where it says Iranian Theater. If we click on this here, we get what's called a combat log, and we can see the results of every battle that has finished. So not the ongoing battles. And so we see here in this battle for Baghdad, we were the defending side. We lost 240 manpower, they lost 208. We lost some equipment. In this defense, we lost 64 manpower. Iraq lost 481. Let's see if there are any other interesting ones. In this one, the mountain battle of Kermanshah, we defended, and Iraq lost 1,300 men, and we lost 32. That is, I think that really demonstrates the effectiveness of mountains for defense. Lost 32 men while killing 1,300. So how long will it take for these? They're going to leave in 4 hours. I think once that's done, we can just take this territory for free. 4 hours and... No, I was wrong. That's 2 hours. Okay, now they're attacking into the desert here. This defense is going more in our favor now with the extra infantry units supporting. So now it's 2v2, and we have a pretty good defensive stat. Doesn't look like we will lose that battle. So let's see now how we can best leverage what we have available to us. So what I see here is we have a lot of units kind of surrounding these 2 infantry units in this position. And this 1 infantry unit here actually is quite low on strength. We see that the strength bar here is missing a large chunk. And they are also suffering attrition from something. That might just be low supply because we cut the country in half. Now, what I can do here is I can attack from both sides. I don't really want to attack across a river, so I don't want to utilize these 2 attacking here. But I could use these 3 divisions to attack this division here, because it is low strength and it is 3v1. Then once we do that and we win and we push this unit out, this unit here will be cut off and encircled, and it will be very easy then to also destroy that one. So let's try that. Let's attack from 2 sides. We get a very high battle number there, so the battle should actually be over pretty quickly. This unit is moving away. And one of the things, actually, one of the kind of tools we can use in combat is, especially in terms of like maneuver warfare. So if I don't want this unit to arrive in this province, if I want it to be kind of tied up and stuck here, unable to reinforce or assist its allies, if I ask one of my units to attack, then this unit will be, although it can, you know, still continue kind of traveling, and this will arrive in the next province, timer will go down, the unit can't actually finish moving while it is still in combat. And so we can use this kind of tactic to tie up enemy units, to stop them from joining their allies in key battles, to stop them from plugging holes in a line. So we just attack, even whether we can win that battle or not is kind of irrelevant. We're just using it to tie the unit up. And if we mouse over the battle marker here, we see that the battle will last for 12, 14, 15 days, 16. So this is a really long time for this unit to be tied up and unable to go anywhere, unable to assist its allies. And we did manage to get this encirclement here. I didn't actually want to move that unit there. Let's quickly move it back. But now that this unit is encircled, after some time, it will start suffering a very bad attrition malus. And that will make its strength deplete quite quickly, and it will be very, very easy to kill. And generally what happens is, as soon as you encircle the enemy AI like this, it tends to almost instantly try attacking to get out of it. And it's not doing it very intelligently because it is still attacking across a river. And we can see here the low supply. It's low supply because it has been encircled. It can't get supply from anywhere. Usually units can still take supply from places like towns, which are represented by these small squares here, or from, of course, the capital, which is also a kind of town. So if we check the war score now, we've lost so far 3,500 men, and Iraq has lost 20,000. So that's a pretty good war score so far. And as this unit now runs out of organization, we can then attack, and because it has nowhere to retreat to, it will be wiped out. Let's just attack now with this unit. And we will see this enemy division disappear because it can't retreat anywhere. And so I don't need to tie this unit up. I can go back and take this territory maybe 2 days and 4 hours. This one will arrive in 4 days and 5 hours. Okay, so we will arrive first. It'll be easy to defend. I will send this unit here also because the only reason it was there was to defend this province. If we have this province, there's no need to defend this one. As this unit then starts also to lose its organization, after this battle, I'll see if I can attack into this province with the support of this division as well, which should be fairly easy to push it out. We see it already starts at a very high battle number 97. So even though I am attacking across a river, because I chose a key point to attack with, it doesn't make any difference. You know, even if it is minus 30% statistics for my unit, when the enemy unit has nothing, no organizational strength, then it doesn't really matter how much of a malus your unit has for that attack. Here we see he is retreating, and we gain one more tile of territory there. My unit arrived here and can defend, is defending. Let's see, I don't need a unit here anymore. And I'm not sure if this counts as bordering or not, but I will move this one also across here, and we can start attacking down into here. I think at this stage, really, I only need to maybe capture Mosul to end the war. And this unit is also very low organization, so we can just attack straight up here. This unit is going to arrive in this territory soon. Now I will need actually to leave one infantry unit in here so that this mountain unit cannot just move freely into this territory. So I'll take the one that has lower organization, and just tell him to stay here and defend. Now this attack actually is going badly because although we almost arrived, they reinforced it with a different unit. So what I'll do is I'll tell this unit to stop the attack. We don't need to follow through just because we thought we could. Sometimes things change and then we just adjust as we go. Now I only have one unit each on these tiles, and although this unit here does have low organization, I could attack and win. I wouldn't really be able to take the territory because it just opens up the territory here for this unit to move in. And then it just becomes a bit like whack-a-mole. So there's no need to do that. We can just slowly and surely push, push, push. So we have 3 units here, and this unit even is quite low strength because of course they are having difficulty resupplying at the moment. So what we can do is we can just attack straight down into here. And we can even use these. We can see if this one can attack. Okay, so by attacking or trying to attack with this unit, we see that it has to move through this territory here, which means that this tile is not adjacent to this one. So I'll just send him actually over here. We'll get these 2 guys to support the attack. Although I'm not actually going to let them finish moving here, I will tell them to stay here after they win this battle. Okay, once we see this reach 98 or 99, we can just tell them to stay here. They don't need to keep fighting because we already won. Now the question is, do these units arrive 22 hours before this unit arrives? 6 hours. No, they don't. So there's going to be another battle here before they can arrive. And the AI is moving another unit across here too. Now, as I said before, I mean it's only going to arrive in game education. Do I get a degree for watching? And if so, is it useful in the current job market? It's a very good question, Stoic Supper. I do offer degrees in game education for the low price of $500. Just contact me privately and I will give you my PayPal and I will send you your certificate in the mail. Totally legit. Absolutely not a scam. So as I was saying, you know, this unit is now moving to assist its ally here, and it's going to arrive in 7 days. And I think this battle is going to be over in less than 7 days anyway. But if I wanted to prevent this unit from arriving here again as before, I could take these 3 units that are bordering this province and I could ask them to attack. And by doing so, they would tie up these units and they would stop them from being able to maneuver in any kind of way. And this is like one of the key kind of principles to the maneuver warfare strategy style, is tying up enemy units, especially if you can tie up a large portion of enemy units. You know, even if the battle is not one you can win, it's irrelevant. You're not doing it to win that battle. You're doing it to tie them up so that you can take territory in other areas and win the war as a whole rather than just win one battle. Because once the war is won, there are no more battles to fight anyway, right? Let's just check over here. This is a bit of a stalemate. That's fine, I don't mind that. We can wipe out all the units here. Once this pocket is closed and exterminated, then all of these units here will be able to be brought up, and then we finish off the last pocket up here. Okay, so now that this battle is about to be won, I can tell these units to stop moving, to stay in the province that I assigned them to. And now I capture this province and my units are defending against this unit because it couldn't arrive in time. This unit doesn't need to stay here to defend because there are no adjacent enemy provinces, so we'll just move him across the river to here as well. And I have some unassigned divisions, some extra infantry. Okay, let's just move him over here. Now, you know, these units are kind of sitting here for a long time now, and if I wanted to, in fact, I will, because it's just good, it's good general practice. We're going to give them their own personal front lines so that they can start getting that planning bonus, which No, 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 don't move. That planning bonus, which is basically just some extra free attack statistic, right? So we just choose each individual unit. And we choose each individual unit because sometimes the AI is like, yeah, let's spread the units around in a totally unnecessary and unhelpful way. And so by at least just choosing each tile and giving a front line individually to each tile, we can stop the AI from being a bit stupid with the units. And especially when you're playing in this kind of way with the maneuver warfare, exactly where your units are placed and how they move is the most important thing, and you don't want that to be affected. So this is free, we're going to take it. These guys are trying to move here 4 days and 22 hours. I will arrive in 1 day, that's fine. Don't need to tie them up, no problem there. And I think now if I take Basra, because Basra is the only town left out of these 3 tiles, and I have 3 units, although they are across a river, I have 3 and 3 here. If I attack with my 6 units into Basra and I take it, any units left in these 2 tiles will be cut off from any kind of supplies. They'll be super easy to exterminate. So I think that's probably a good course of action. Just wait for this battle to finish first. This unit will be low on organization as well. Okay, select all 3, hold shift and click here, and let's attack with 6 at once. Lovely, that is going to be over very quickly. Extra unit here, let's bring him up into the pocket here. So this unit actually, this last defending unit is already suffering from low supply by having the country cut in half essentially. And so that gives us a nice advantage of 20%, but it does still have the entrenchment bonus of 32%. So, you know, you give a little, you get a little. And this pocket is kind of boned now. Don't want these units to actually move into here, so now that once the number gets to around 97, 98, you can take the ones that you don't want to move and just tell them to stop. The rest of the units are still going to win this battle fairly handily. See if this one is going to arrive in 6 days. No, it's not going to arrive in any kind of reasonable time. And even now, I could just take these 6 units and attack this last province here. And as they cannot go into this province as I take it, any units that retreat from here are either going to get caught or just exterminated. And that will be this pocket enclosed. And then everything moves up here for the very last part of the war, and Iraq will be ours. And we could even attack with these guys as well. Overrun, yep, there we go, and it's all over for this side of the country. Don't need these guys to move because that's a desert and they're just gonna suffer attrition from doing that. The cavalry can go. This infantry unit doesn't need to go. And these guys can move up through these plains where they will suffer no attrition. And into here, and then we're just gonna smash this last pocket. We go, boys. That's a desert, so don't go there. Let's click on the plains first, and then we hold shift. We can tell them to take a specific route. Go through the plains, plains, plains. Okay. And now having, totally wiped out those infantry units there, the casualties are very, very high. Look at that, 63 to 6,000. 10 to 1, essentially. I mean, all of these front lines, I'm going to admit, they do look a bit messy, but the advantages that you get from this is still pretty solid, so it doesn't look great, but it does work well, at least. I have an extra unit here, so we can actually, if we hold left control, and then we left click on this line here, we can add this single infantry division to this specific front line here. Okay, let's speed it up a little bit so the cavalry can arrive. And well, actually, Mosul is totally undefended. Look at that. It's a little bit silly. I didn't notice that before. And because I'm gonna take this territory here for free, this is gonna make all of these front lines super messy. And so, you know, the general thing that I do is just before the units are gonna arrive, I just delete the front lines that are next to this territory that are gonna become messy. And to prove to you that it's gonna be super messy, I'm gonna let it happen. Here we go. Reduce the speed down, back down to 2. And there we go. Now this front line now extends over both of these provinces, and sometimes that can make units like start switching between different provinces and saying, oh, there's only one of me and you want me to defend 2 provinces, I guess I'll go to this one. And you don't really want them to go to that one, so that's why we just delete the front line so it doesn't get messy. Now I took Mosul. I wonder if the capitulation is at 100%. It is. So I don't need to actually do any more fighting now. I think at midnight it usually is. Then once the country is at 100% capitulation, they will surrender. I think at midnight. Let's see if that's correct. And it is correct. There we go. Now we get this kind of peace treaty screen because we wrecked their shit. And you get 50% of all the stockpiled equipment the country has when you make them surrender. So Iraq had a bunch of infantry equipment and artillery, and that is now mine. You also get half their fuel, but I already had full fuel. That doesn't make any difference. And we get the news pop-up as well. It is great news, isn't it? The German Reich claims memo. Okay, cool. And now what we have to do is to take this territory for ourselves is we have to use this make demands box here. And if we just click on Iraq and we click take all states, then we will take all the states. I mean, it does what it says on the tin, right? But we do get some other interesting options, like we can liberate to Kurdistan, for example. And I think that's this area here in Mosul that will create a new nation in this area here, which actually we don't really get any benefit from. So I'm gonna remove this one from here. If we click on the arrows here, we can see. And sometimes we can also get this one, satellite Kurdistan. It doesn't mean like a satellite in space kind of thing. It means that essentially you will create this new nation in this space. If we click it, it highlights Mosul here. It will create a new nation here, but then also this new nation will become a puppet of your regime. So it will be automatically allied to you, and if you go to war, you can tell it has to join in wars with you and other things like that. But I think most of the time it's better just to take the territory for yourself. So I don't want to satellite. I want to take all states. And if we then press enter, it becomes part of our nation, and then we just press done. And New Persian Empire took 3 states. Iraq was annexed, and we gained some equipment. We zoom out, we now see the New Persian Empire is much bigger than it was before. And I do love this name. It's a pretty cool name. And so that's it. That's how we can do some nice little maneuver warfare war on a very small scale. You know, most of the major nations, they have many more infantry. Well, not just infantry, they have just many more units than what we were using here. But that's why I like using the minor nations to give tutorials and to teach with, because you have less going on. So you can pay more attention to these smaller things. You have less to worry about, and you can practice the game mechanics on a much smaller scale like we did here. I think that's really a much nicer way to learn than trying to say play as the Soviet Union when it's so ridiculously huge, and you could have, you know, war across such a huge border with hundreds and hundreds of units, and that can feel a little bit overwhelming, I think. But I see I've reached 3 hours on my stream here, which is a little bit long for me, so I am gonna stop here. And you know, if you appreciate the explanation and the teaching here, then you can follow the channel. I do this for lots and lots of different games, and if there are any games that you would like to learn about that I don't yet have any videos for, you can just join my Discord, which I have linked in the About Me section, and just send me a message. And if I do have the game available, I can see about making a video or doing a stream on that game as well. Always happy to teach people how to play the games that they want to play. I love playing games, and I like helping others to do the same as well. So that'll be it for me for now. I think I'll maybe just save the game, and that way I can maybe continue another time as well. Otherwise, let's see if there's anybody streaming else. I wonder if I can raid someone here. Let's have a look. This one I like. That is. Oh, there is. This Sky Blue Monty. All right, I like this guy. He plays Bullet Bowl. He's pretty funny, a little bit crude sometimes, but go have a look at what he's doing and say hi from me. But otherwise, from me, that's gonna be it for now. Um, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, just come back next time.